Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Isham bin Ishak, Secretary General Ministry of Transport Malaysia. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Nur Aini binti Haji Mohtar, Vice Chancellor Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. Yang Berbahagia Datuk Insinyur Abdul Haq bin Mat Amin, Chairman Malaysia Ship Owners Association MASA. Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Sabirin bin Jaafar, Director General Maritime Institute of Malaysia, MIMA. Yang berusaha Kapten Muhammad Halim bin Ahmed, Under Secretary Maritime Division, Ministry of Transport Malaysia. Yang berusaha Mr. Vijaya Indiaran R. Viswalingam, Assistant General Manager, Corporate and Development Port Klang Authority. Yang berusaha Mr. Su Ji Main, President Association of Marine Industries of Malaysia, AMIM. Yang berusaha Mr. Muhammad Nazri Khalid, Adjunct Professor, Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, also Head of Group Corporate Communications, Boosted Heavy Industries Corporation Berhad. Yang berusaha Professor Dr. Wan Muhammad Nursani bin Wan Nik, Head of Industry Centre of Excellence, ICOE, Maritime Cluster of Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. Senior Officers, Ministry of Transport Malaysia, NUMT. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on today's forum on the topic Togetherness in Moving Forward for Maritime Global Competitiveness, brought to you by Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. For your information, we are currently live via Cisco WebEx platform and also live via our Facebook page, Official UMT. The forum aims to further strengthen the smart strategic relationship between UMT and maritime industry players, besides as a platform to critically discussing issues and the policies on maritime industry. To introduce UMT further, let us watch a corporate video of UMT. Before we start with the event, I would like to call upon Al-Fadil Ustaz Muhammad Syafiq bin Alias from Sultan Mahmud Islamic Center UMT to recite the doa. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم لك الحمد كما هديتنا للإسلام وعلمتنا الحكمة والقرآن. All praise to you, Ya Allah, the Almighty, most great and most merciful. To you who creates the earth and the heaven and all that lies within. All praise to you, Allah, for what He bestowed us from the bounty of Islam and taught us wisdom and guidance from Quran. Ya Allah, may we ask you to give us good and to protect us from the evil. Ya Allah, we gathered here today for the forum Togetherness in moving forward for maritime global competitiveness. With your grace and blessing, this program shall run as planned. Through this humble supplication, we express our gratitude for this opportunity, and we seek from you, Ya Allah, endless guidance and blessing in our present and future endeavors. Ya Allah, the most merciful and most forgiving, give us the strength to perform the tasks ahead and to fulfill the responsibilities that are associated within. Inspire us to adopt positive attitudes and protect us from adopting habits that deter progress. Ya Allah, you encompass everything in mercy and knowledge. Therefore, forgive us for our wrongdoings and grant us good in this life and hereafter. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al Allahumma fina wa la ma'ana matrudan wa la mahruma birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa baraka wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you to Al-Fadil Ustaz Muhammad Syafiq bin Alias for the doa recitation. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Wan Muhammad Nursani bin Wan Nik, Head of Industri Center of Excellence, Maritime Cluster UMT, to deliver his welcoming note. Please welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Ruby, our MC today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Professor Datuk Dr. Nuraini binti Haji Mukhtar, Vice Chancellor Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, our guest of honor, the Honorable Datuk Isham bin Ishak, Secretary General, Ministry of Transport Malaysia, my respected moderator, panels, forum, my respected also audience, participants from Maritime Industries. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Firstly, on behalf of Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation and warm welcome to our guests of honors, respected moderator and forum panelists, fellow participants, and all audience. Okay, I'd like to say again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Okay, I strongly believe this forum will benefit all of us as a maritime industry player, public and private agencies, stakeholders and academicians. I believe this is the first national forum on maritime global competitiveness, and due to COVID-19, we have become more creative towards organizing this maritime forum in virtual format. Okay, it's towards digitalization. I also not to forget to extend my appreciation to Ministry of Higher Education and Ministry of Transport for putting together this meaningful and impactful event at UMT in Terengganu. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, only MC and me, and just now Ustaz is in this UMT studio. All the keynote speakers, moderator, all the forum panels, and also all the audience are at different locations. But we have the same objective, which is to work together for the betterment of maritime industry. So let us work together. Malaysia as a maritime country, in the Far East region, has the respect of the world, and we are deservedly so, but we must not rest on our laurels. Things have changed so fast, so that we, the industry and government, must work closely together to ensure that maritime has the commitment and direction it needs to maintain our position as our 5 biggest ports in Southeast Asia, as we will hear in the forum later on. Besides, we are home to many clusters of maritime expertise, and we are both accessible and well equipped to send and receive cargoes at numerous points along our vast shorelines that also we will listen in the forum later on. Thus, together, we have to move forward for the benefit of maritime global competitiveness, and it's a must for Malaysia. And Alhamdulillah, this morning we have 6 maritime leaders and experts to share their views and solutions. So together today, from now on, we can co-create to have a more win-win solutions. And also, for the information of our participants, the actual program does not stop at 12:30 today. Even the tentative says so, but we, as a secretariat, we will compile all issues, solutions raised by the keynotes, raised by the panel, forum panelists, and also feedback that we gain from the audience. And for information, officially, there is a Q&A session between 12 to 12:30. So I hope all the audience can take opportunity to ask questions and share your solutions and your thought through the chatting column. Inshallah, our moderator will pick up your questions, solutions, suggestions, to be discussed in the forum. And if we don't have enough time, never mind. We will compile all the questions, suggestions, and solutions, and will submit to the relevant authorities for their consideration and action. And also another information that I want to share with our audience today, this morning. As of yesterday, we received about 400 registration, and as 9:10 a.m. this morning, we have 209 audience through WebEx and 40 audience through UNT Facebook, and I'm expecting the number to increase. In a closing, I won't say much. I'd like to draw your attention, our fellow participants, to support and give full commitment until the end of the session. With that, I wish you all to have a fruitful session today. Thank you.
Thank you to Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dr. Wan Muhammad Norsani, Waning, for the brief welcoming note. Now, I would like to welcome the keynote speaker for today, Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Nuraini binti Haji Mohta, Vice Chancellor Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, to deliver her keynote speech on empowering the national maritime industry, a university perspective. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all. Thank you to our MC, Professor Wan Norsani, and also Ustaz for the prayers. To our honorable guests and the speaker, Datuk Isham bin Ishak, the Secretary General, Ministry of Transport, Malaysia. Welcome, Datuk. Adjunct Professor Nazri Khalid, from University of Malaysia Terengganu, adjunct professor, and also head of Group Corporate Communication of Boston Heavy Engineering Corporation Berhad. Captain Muhammad Halim bin Ahmad, Under Secretary Maritime Division, Ministry of Transport Malaysia. Datuk Dr. Sabirin bin Jaafar, Director General Maritime Institute of Malaysia, or MIMA. Datuk Engineer Abdul Haq bin Muhammad Amin, Chairman of Malaysia Ship Owners Association, or MASA. Mr. Vijaya Indran R. Wiswalingam, Assistant General Manager, Mr. Su Jimin, President Association of Marine Industries of Malaysia, or AMIM. My friend Professor Dr. Fauziah binti Abu Hassan, Professor Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, Corporate Affairs and Industrial Linkages, as well as the chair of this forum, Professor Dr. Wan Muhammad Nur Sani bin Wanik, senior officers from the Ministry of Transport, audience in the virtual space, senior officers of UMT, distinguished fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin with a quote, the famous quote, "If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go further, let's go together." So indeed, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be with you today for this forum, the entitled Togetherness in Moving Forward for the Maritime Global Competitiveness. Congratulations to the Center of Knowledge Transfer and Industry Linkages, Faculty of Maritime Studies, Faculty of Technology, Ocean Engineering and Informatics of UMT for successfully organizing this forum. And of course, thanks to our partner, the Ministry of Transport. First of all, I would like to welcome our distinguished guests, especially in our last discussion with you, Datuk, Secretary General of the Ministry of Transport, Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Isham, Ishak, and all the respective panelists from the Ministry of Transport Malaysia, MIMA, MASA, Port Klang Authority, as well as AMIM to this event. I'm sure you have the whole group with you, behind you for this event. This forum indeed is going to bring the industry, government, academic, as well as public interest group leaders together to discuss global trends and maritime specific challenges and opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the initial platform for Togetherness in Moving Forward for Maritime Global Competitiveness Forum, whereby UMT as the Ignite for the Maritime Forums. As I recall, we had the discussion at the Marina dinner one particular day. We know that Malaysia as a maritime nation, that it needs potential knowledgeable maritime talents coming together. Hence, I believe in Malaysia, we need to focus on recruiting, educating, training men and women for the capacity building of the maritime industry. Surprisingly, even though current economic conditions have slowed down, as we know due to the pandemic COVID-19, however, the demand for new personnel and increased training, retaining of the existing staff, especially for the maritime job market, remains strong. In general, maritime education can be divided into formal knowledge and practical or hands-on. Formal knowledge focuses on specific knowledge in the fields of maritime, which later to be feeder for the maritime professionals and for the management positions. However, for practical focus, more on the technical and operational basis. We have been focusing on that. But currently, the leading public maritime education, we have a whole bunch, at least about 19 institutions. But I'd like to quote here, there are other education providers such as UMT, UTM, UNIKL, UPNM, while other private institutions such as Alam, Sarawak Maritime Academy, Sri Bima Maritime Training Center, and also our partner Ranako Education and Training Institute. These maritime education institutions do not only support the maritime industry in Malaysia, but also look into the future and making an attempt to identify the trends and prepare human talents to the industry. UMT's Work-Based Learning WBL program with Tanjung Pelepas Port, for example, and Kuantan Port Consortium that involve 9 students with 15 industry lecturers. The involvement of industry lecturers indeed can provide the realities of the world of work for those who are experienced to the students in line with the SDG 4, for example, which is quality of education. UMT also offered short courses to Kuantan Port administrative and operational staff organized by the Malaysian Logistics and Transport Centre, Maritime. It involves 64 staffs and 10 main maritime core courses related to port operation and management. Maritime educational institutions must also implement their program content efficiently and effectively in accordance with the professional requirements such as short course of shipping certificate from the Royal Custom Malaysia. Indeed, the faculties that we are offering now, we have the Faculty of Ocean Engineering and Informatics, Faculty of Maritime Studies, which is a newborn faculty after we consolidate. We believe under the platform of SDG, the Industry Center of Excellence, which is the maritime cluster that has been implemented, embedded in the program as the special unit of the university, implement short courses and trainings to boost the graduate employability or GE. So UMT has received a total amount of 600,000 involving a total of 120 graduates for public and private universities in collaboration with the appointed service providers such as Amahams Corporation, Ranako Marine Sdn Bhd, UMT Jaya Holdings, and CS Excellent Academy Sdn Bhd. So, togetherness. Innovative concepts of marine education is a shift from knowledge-based to a competency-based training. And the need for constant professional updating, recertification have brought maritime education institutions out of under the shadows of maritime administration and industry, whereby they must continue to assume an equal partnership rather than simply reacting to the demands. In addition, UMT through the Center of Excellence for Industry in the Maritime Industry, which has successfully received RM 1.1 million from the Korea Marine Equipment Research, our partner from Komari, Samwoo Immersion, Busan Technology Park, as well as the Ministry of Higher Education to provide maritime asset facilities for the use of teaching and learning at UMT under the Industry 4.0 Competency Center for the Maritime Industry. This again in line with our policy direction, is our aspiration with the SDG, particularly SDG 9, Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure. We have UMT's ship simulators, which are used for training or assessing competence, which are required to comply with the provisions contained in vessel and sea navigation. Everyone is aware that the use of simulators in shipping navigation implementation is relatively recent but has been utilized, and students are becoming more proactive in their applications. Besides that, this simulation proactively develops simulator scenarios for inclusion, particularly in navigation simulation, looking into accidents and incidents at sea and in ports, thus relating to causes of accidents due to the identified gap in education and training. So this provision under the Collision Regulation Act from the Navigation Courses, Admiralty Law and Maritime transport law. We realize that government cannot transform the higher maritime education sector alone. Malaysia needs to move from academia operating in isolation to the quadruple helix of academia, building alliances with industry as well as government agencies and local communities, coming together in partnership for the incubation, innovation, development, and commercialization of research findings. In fact, it is time to have a paradigm shift from the quadruple helix to the quintuple helix innovation, whereby the knowledge and know-how are created and transformed, circulated as inputs and outputs in a way that affects the natural environment and stakeholders. We know that the corporate sector needs this direction of the initiative. We know that the global aspiration through the SDGs by the United Nations, we are talking about ESG and the rest. So talking about sustainability, the corporate sector, industry sector need our initiative such as what we have done today. It is high time for the university and MOT, as we discussed earlier, Datuk KSU, Secretary General, who are very apt, in terms of having this forum and discussion together as a way forward to collaborate. And we believe that the role of the NGO also very important. Particular players, the industries, thus we can enhance our competitiveness towards the building the human maritime capital or maritime talents. We co-create with the right skills and competencies as well as fundamental knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, given the nature of the maritime industry, it is essential use of this maritime education's innovation to be utilized and evolved in accordance with the industry forward industry or WRT. I also hope this forum will spark new areas of discussion and issues, especially in relation to the digitalization era. The way we do business, it has changed. Yeah, so we just hope that we have this long-lasting partnership. Yeah, it's just only a beginning, and we can plant a seed for more collaborations in the future. As the next phase, together we need to have further discussions. Yeah, so it doesn't stop here, as Prof. Wan Nosani mentioned just now. We need to accomplish this cooperation and collaboration between the government, industry, as well as the academia. It will require vision, mission, initiative, and efforts that can be substantial. Yeah, it should have a tangible output, and it also require your support, everyone, especially in the leadership team. I believe this forum, supported by AMIM, MASA, MIMA, and Port Klang, and the Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Higher Education, we start with these key players, key stakeholders, that we bring greater impact not only for the maritime research, education, building the nation, but I just hope that one day we have this policy and lawmakers that is relating to the protecting and safeguarding of our ocean for the future generations. As we learn that there is the Ocean Decade of Science, 2030, it requires a decade for us to work on this venture. This togetherness mission can be achieved through the last goal of SDG, as everyone is aware, partnership for the goals. It's very appropriate to integrate the green and the blue economy, which both have received a significant attention to promote more resilient and sustainable economic path, which is we have in our country as the shared vision, equitable benefit. It should rebalances the social environment and economic drivers. And we pray that the tagline of the UMT motto, which is relevant to this forum, Oceans of Discoveries for Global Sustainability. With that, I would like to thank everyone, and I will continue in the forum discussion. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you to Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Nuraini binti Haji Mohtar for the keynote speech. And next, I would like to welcome Yang Berbahagia Datuk Isham bin Ishak, Secretary General Ministry of Transport Malaysia, to deliver his keynote speech on maritime governance in Malaysia. Please welcome.
Nuraini Haji Mokhtar, Vice Chancellor Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, Ms. Norma Osman, my Deputy Secretary General for Policy, Ministry of Transport, Yang Berusaha Professor Dr. Wan Nursani bin Wanik, Head of Industri, Centre of Excellence for Maritime Cluster, UMT. I see many distinguished panel of speakers on my screen this morning. Many fellow online forum participants. Assalamualaikum, very good morning, and I'm very happy and glad to be given this opportunity to participate at the Forum for Togetherness in moving forward for maritime global competitiveness and in the area of maritime governance in Malaysia. I would like to commend the work done by UMT in taking this leadership in organizing this forum, a very timely and critical time to undertake this forum, as we have actually wasted 1 year staying at home, working from home, but hopefully this forum will continue to guide us in coming together, in coming out with new ideas, new vision, and also proposals for government to undertake to ensure that the maritime sector in Malaysia continue to become progressive and competitive. Ladies and gentlemen, I was really taking some points just now on some of the statements given by Professor Nuraini and also Dr. Wan Muhammad Nuraini. To start with, Dr. Nuraini mentioned, if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you not only go together, but you really need to get everyone to support this effort for us to really go further where we want to go. Ladies and gentlemen, emphasis on the maritime governance has grown and it become increasingly more important nowadays, especially we see new powers emerging like China trying to compete against powers like the US and European. Now, if we let them continue to lead in the maritime governance, we will be nowhere. We will become a follower and never a master. Looking at a ship itself, a ship is always captained by a captain. He is the master of the ship and he guides them. The bigger the ship, for instance, China, US, Europe, doesn't mean that we have to be scared by them. If we are together and we can bring our coalition together, especially in ASEAN, we should never be scared. And we must never be dictated by the bigger powers. Ladies and gentlemen, the advent of technology, more efficient communication, closer collaboration, changes in laws, regulation, new conventions, and also greater emphasis on protecting the environment and ensuring fair competition has escalated further to the need where we need closer collaboration through this forum on maritime governance and strengthening this maritime governance. Now, maritime governance is a dynamic process. It's never a form. Now, that is something that we want to remember. The objective of our forum today is not to come up with a form, but a process where it leads to many interdependencies. in areas related to legal regulators. We can see APMM here and also many enforcement agencies. The blue economy, especially at this critical point of time, almost at the end of the COVID or post-COVID era, where the economy needs to be revived. Without the support of proper interdependence, dynamic process, we will not be able to ready our industries, our maritime players, our shipping related agencies and those private sectors to be ready to come together and enjoy the benefit that the economy has to offer post-COVID. The next would be on security. The dynamic process in ensuring security is also very critical to ensure that investors, shipping lines continue to look at Malaysia and respect the togetherness that we have in ensuring the security of our maritime nation. And of course, never to forget the environmental elements. Those are the four major areas that require very close interdependency among each other and among sectors. And this is a dynamic process. Now, what is a dynamic process or a dynamic maritime nation? Now, dynamism doesn't come naturally. It needs to be created. It has to be created. And creation comes in terms of togetherness from all of us who are gathered here this morning. Coming together and becoming dynamic or creating a dynamic ecosystem or environment is the responsible of us together. Like an example of a ship. Now, without a captain, without the captain creating a dynamic crew, a real true north that where the captain wants to bring the ship towards to. Without that, then the ship goes nowhere. You will never achieve dynamism. So it is important that we understand that dynamic interdependence or dynamic process needs to be created. Now, in the dynamic process of interdependency, there's always the horizontal and vertical independency and interrelations in dealing with the ocean. This makes maritime governance necessary instruments for super or regional powers to attain their interests. Now, that is not what we want. We want to ensure that our voices are heard, number one. Number two, there must be a strong governance in the maritime sector, because when there's governance, then people will not dictate us, but together we manage and ensure the sustainability of the maritime global competitiveness. Now, when we look at the maritime governance, there are three levels that we have to see. One is at the global level. Secondly is the regional level, not to look far, but look at ASEAN. And of course, domestically, which is where we are at the moment. Sometimes to look outward or outward looking at global, we have to look inward. We have to assess what are the major challenges that we face within our country first. We stock take them, we look at the gaps, and we call for forums to discuss those priority areas that we have identified in those gaps. Now, when we have identified those gaps, then we have discourses like this to look at how we can bring our agenda forward and make our voices heard going to the next level, which is ASEAN. We should use ASEAN as the platform in the regional level to bring our issues, our agendas, our corporate requirement, our demands to the bigger powers globally. Because if we go alone, we will never go far. But if we go together, of course, our voices will be heard. Now, going together through ASEAN is one of the platforms that I would like to suggest, that we gather our agendas, issues, and concerns, we raise them in ASEAN, we get the buy-in from our ASEAN members, and then together, we hope to form the process of governance in ensuring that this area, or Malaysia and ASEAN, becomes a more conducive area for better maritime governance. Ladies and gentlemen, next, it will be on the periodical review and updates to ensure relevancy that we need to support what was mentioned by Dr. Noaini just now on the UN Sustainable Goals. The Paris Agreement, through the agenda of decarbonization initiative in the maritime sector, has led to the need for us to gather here this morning to discuss on this matter. Challenges in the maritime governance not only affect us globally, but it also provides us questions or challenges regionally at the ASEAN level and of course domestically, like what I have mentioned just now. On the regional level at ASEAN, we have always become one of the leaders in this region. But today, if we look back, we can see very closely behind us countries like Vietnam, who have taken a lot of efforts to catch up. Now, the expansion of ports in ASEAN member states have raised the level of competition to a much higher level. Ports among ASEAN are competing against each other. We are looking at survivability. But if one were to be just focusing on themselves, then there will be other countries who will lose out. In ASEAN, that is not what we want to see. We want to see togetherness in coming together with ports working together, ASEAN member states working together towards a better maritime governance in this region. New ports, new port systems, bigger ships, faster ships, complicated, complex aids to navigation arises the need for us to come together and have further discussions in ASEAN level so that we can form a more cohesive maritime governance in this region. We need to have better governance, specific rules, regulations, more integrated rules and regulations, more harmonization across all member states. This must be discussed, this must be understood, coordinated and communicated, and more importantly, consulted and implemented effectively and efficiently among member states. Therefore, there is a need, perhaps today in our forum, we need to discuss and apprise ourselves with the current scenarios at the global level, regional level, and of course, domestically. It is important for us to update ourselves with all this development, stockpick the current challenges, divide them into regional priorities, be it domestically or at the ASEAN level. Finally, at the ASEAN level. We need to prepare our agenda so that those bigger powers can hear us, understand us, and collaborate with us together in forming a maritime governance that would benefit all. Looking inward, post-COVID-19 poses a lot of challenges. Recently, in the last 3 months, I've been actively trying to prepare the aviation industry when the economy opens up. As we understand, many of the airlines are facing many great financial problems. But if the economy is already open, are they ready or not to be involved again? In the maritime sector, the same also occurs. Are we ready to modify, amend, or at least support and facilitate the maritime governance to ensure that those in the maritime industry are able to benefit and come on board quickly when the economy opens up again? Restarting the maritime sector is a priority for the Ministry of Transport. Therefore, we need to work together with the industry players to hear them and see how we can facilitate so that they can be ready to go on board when the economy is fully open. Ladies and gentlemen, in the government system, there are more than 10 ministries and 31 marine-related agencies that regulates, enforce, monitors the maritime sector. There are many duplication, overlapping jurisdiction, archaic rules and regulation that needs to be reviewed. Sometimes we in government are very comfortable with these rules and regulation because work is always like normal to us if we don't amend them. But I would like to urge those in the academic fraternity, the maritime fraternity, the private sector, if you know of any rules and regulations that are archaic, that needs to be amended, we are more than open to hear from you and to facilitate the maritime industry players so that you can better be able to benefit from the developments that we can have from a better maritime governance in Malaysia. Maybe I've spoken too much, but again, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate University of Malaysia Terengganu for undertaking this initiative and organizing this forum. In realizing the vision for our forum today, Togetherness in moving forward for the maritime global competitiveness, collaboration, togetherness between the government, academic and research institutions and the industry is crucial and also very timely. Perhaps at the end of this forum, we can list down the priorities and develop a plan of action to execute. And I'm more than open to hear the proposals coming out from this forum so that the government, especially the Ministry of Transport, could really facilitate your needs and demands to ensure that you can benefit from the opening up of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that all of you will have a fruitful and interesting discussion today from our distinguished lineup of panelists. And also I hope that today's forum will benefit all of us indirectly, contribute to Malaysia's maritime global competitiveness. With that, I thank you and I wish everyone a fruitful and also beneficial forum this morning. Thank you.
Thank you to Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Isham bin Ishak for the keynote speech. And for our today's forum on Togetherness in moving forward for maritime global competitiveness, I will deliver the session to the moderator today yang berusaha, Mr. Muhammad Nazri Khalid, Adjunct Professor, Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, also Head Group Corporate Communications Boosted Heavy Industries Corporation Berhad. But before that, I would like to introduce briefly the background of our moderator. Mr. Nazri Khalid is a well-known commentator and scholar in the field of maritime. He has been involved as a speaker, moderator and panelist in over 250 seminars, webinars and conferences worldwide. He is a prolific writer, having published over 350 articles in print, including refereed journals, chapters in books and magazines and online platforms on a wide range of maritime topics. Mr. Nazri came to prominence in the field of Maritime Institute of Malaysia, MIMA, a policy think tank under Ministry of Transport Malaysia, where he served as a senior fellow, research coordinator and head of Centre of Maritime Economics and Industries from 2004 to 2014. Prior to that, he worked in the financial services industry for 15 years, including in commercial and investment banking, stockbroking, and venture capital. He is currently an adjunct professor at the Fakulti of Ocean Engineering, Technology and Informatics at Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. In addition, he is also adjunct professor in the Bachelor of Social Science program at Taylor's University and in the Global Supply Chain Management program at Sunway University Business School. Mr. Nazri holds an MBA from International Islamic University Malaysia and a BA in Business Administration from Ottawa University, Kansas, United States. He is currently head of Group Corporate Communications at Boosted Heavy Industries Corporation, a company listed on Bursa Malaysia involved in the marine, defense and security industries. A very indeed and impressive person himself in the field of maritime, such an inspiring person. And now, I shall pass the session to you, Mr. Nazri. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor Majlis, for making me sound more productive than I actually am. You miss out 50 TikTok performances with my children, so they will add to my resume. Just kidding. Anyway, it's a very it's a real honor for me to be invited to this event. Not only my capacity as a adjunct professor at University Malaysia Terengganu, but also in the presence of so many luminaries, and I'm actually trembling in fear. Now, bagus juga this event is not conducted live. Otherwise, you'll see my legs trembling in the presence of so many luminaries and experts in the field, and it really is an honor and a privilege for me to be able to be moderating this session. I would like to again thank UMT and also MOT for putting this event together. Despite despite kekangan COVID ni, we have it's very encouraging to see a sense of togetherness in the maritime industry through events like this, through virtual platforms. So the forum is aptly titled "Togetherness in Moving Forward for Maritime Global Competitiveness." As Datuk VC tadi mentioned, that very famous quote, to go far, you go together. To go fast, you go alone. To go far, you go together. Tapi nak go far ni nak kena ada permit sekarang ni, especially rentas daerah. So this is where we are here gathered today to think about the kind of permit that we need to roam the 7 oceans of the world to become more competitive than we actually are. Trust me when I say this, we already have the ingredients, all the facilities. In a way, the maritime industry, maritime situation in Malaysia ni macam a well-stocked kitchen. All the ovens, all the utensils, all the ingredients are there. But what seems to be missing is that X factor, the recipe, and a chef want to cook everything together to deliver a Michelin-style recipe that will make Malaysia truly a globally competitive nation. And we are already, I would say, considerably punching above our weight on the global maritime scale. Look at some of the impressive achievements that a country of our size already has. We have consistently 2 of our ports, namely Port Klang, which consists of Westport and Northport terminals, and also PTP, have consistently, I think, easily over the last 15 years have been ranked among the top 20 container ports in terms of throughput handle. In MISC, we have one of the most premier carrier of energy. It's got the biggest, it is the largest owner-operator of Aframax tankers. We have some very good shipyards. We have, great maritime facilities. We have port authorities which are so in tune with the needs of the industry. We have so many good people, talented skills, and so on who are working in the field. But at the same time, there is a niggling feeling that we should be achieving a lot more than what we have achieved so far. And this is where this forum has been cobbled up together, featuring people from various aspects, various fields of the industry, to come up with deliberations and also to unpack new ideas and new insights into how to take Malaysia to that next step of global maritime competitiveness. So even the word competitiveness ni pun kita sebenarnya tak ada definition yang solid. When I was in Myanmar dulu, again, allow me to share a little bit of me. We try to come up with a definition of what constitutes global maritime competitiveness. Of course, it can be an exercise of short sendiri. You can say a lot of things about how good you are as a maritime nation. Tapi there are global standards and global measurements which come from authoritative bodies such as World Bank, national, and if you rank highly by these people, for example, in terms of liner connectivity index or in terms of throughput handled by ports, I think you can consider yourself to be already quite competitive, because these are not internally generated. But at the same time, there is a feeling that we can achieve a lot more than what we already have today. And it is hoped that if at the end of this session, we can come up with fresh ideas on how to move things forward, macam yang Datuk VC sebut tadi, to go further, and also as what Datuk Isham mentioned tadi, for us to be more of a leader rather than a follower. I think we can consider this event a success. So in order to get going, let me just introduce the esteemed panel members which I'm going to preside over this morning, starting with Professor Datuk Noraini Haji Mokhtar, who's a UMT Vice Chancellor, the first ever female Vice Chancellor of UMT. I kenal Datuk Noraini from the time when she was with NOD dulu ya, Datuk, under MOSTI, National Oceanography Directorate. Then we also have Captain Muhammad Halim Ahmad, also a good friend. I've not seen you for a long time. Si Halim, apa khabar, sihat? Can you hear me? Cap? Okay, good. Captain Halim, of course, is the Setiausaha bahagian Maritim, Maritime Division. I knew him on the time when I was in MIMA when he was the penolong ketua pengarah jabatan H2 Navigation Department dulu kan, Captain Halim, when you were in ni. And also, of course, he was our Ilmu attaché in London. And then we have Datuk Abdul Haq Muhammad Amin, Chairman of MASA and also Tauke Besar dekat EA Teknik. Who's OSV owner and also an OSV builder.
Jangan dengar tu.
Oh yeah.
Simbol tak clear.
Siapa yang tak clear?
Ni Amin
Who's that? Okay. Datuk Ha, how are you? Sihat?
Alhamdulillah, thank you very much.
Okay.
How are you?
EA Teknik is one of those rare OSV players yang ada yacht sendiri dekat hutan melintang ya, Datuk ya? Kat Perak.
Yeah.
Okay. Then in the blue corner, we have none other than Director General of MIMA, where I served proudly for 10 years, from 2004 to 2014. Dr. Sabirin Jaafar, who's got a stellar record in the academia. He was also involved in politics, and of course, he was also Pro-Chancellor of our Universiti Technical Melaka, prior to your appointment as a Director General of MIMA. Wah, masih kenal ya, Datuk?
Ya.
Okay. Mak saya orang Melaka, Tampin. So,
Tak tahu tu.
okay.
Ada DNA lah.
Yeah. And then of course certainly we have Dr. lagi. Mr. Vijaya Indran Viswalingam, Double V. Vijay, how are you? Can you just say hi?
I'm good.
All right. Vijay, an old fan also, is the Assistant General Manager, Corporate and Development at Port Klang Authority, which presides over, of course, Northport and Westport. And then certainly last but not least is my good friend, Mr. Su Jimin, the President of Association of Marine Industries of Malaysia, which I was the Honorary Secretary from 2014 to 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And Mr. Su is also with a Grade 1 a shipyard based in Lumut. Su, can you hear us? Just say hi to everyone. Okay, there you go. All right, so we're good to go. So how am I going to start this? I'm not going to be too structured about it, but what I'm going to do is that to warm up everyone's vocal cords, I'm just going to quickly pick on the brains of each and every one of you, and for you to share quickly what are your thoughts on the current state of play within the context of the forum topic today, which is togetherness in moving forward for maritime global competitiveness. From your point of view, what is considered as global competitiveness within the preview of your respective field of expertise? In the case of Dr. Rani, it will be from the academia perspective. In the case of Dr. Abdul Haq, maybe from a ship owner, shipbuilder's perspective. From the perspective of Captain Halim, from a policy perspective. Dr. Sabirin, from a policy research perspective. Vijay, from a regulatory administrative perspective. And Mr. Su, obviously, from the marine industry's perspective. So I hope that's quite clear. But feel free to ad-lib. So just to get everyone going, I will give 5 minutes to warm the proceeding up until at the same time, we'll keep an eye on the questions coming from the audience. Feel free to use the chat box to ask questions. And I will take a look at them and try to highlight some of the questions to be addressed to any particular panel member, and also address in general to everyone. So let's get the ball rolling. I would like to pass the floor to Datuk VC to share very general thoughts about what you think what entails global competitiveness in maritime industry from your perspective, and what UMT and the academia can do in terms of maybe promoting stronger linkages with the industry and also with the policy making side of things. Silakan, Datuk. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, here I'm again. Thank you, our moderator. I know you have a lot to say about the subject. Yeah, so that's the reason why I think you're the most appropriate person to actually create the synergy between our thoughts among the panel speakers. Yeah. I'd like to follow on what Datuk Ishak has mentioned just now, talking about appropriate governance in how we addressing the challenges, yeah, in terms of, in my context of the forum, looking into the education perspective. As you are all aware, the maritime education traditionally was aimed to supply merchant ships with seafarers. Yeah. At the current era, we know that the shipping industry contributes a lot, yeah, in the global growth. Thus, we need to look at the new perspective to redefine and define the maritime education and training in a more a global outlook. As we mentioned, the needs for creating the collaboration and greater alliances, be it at the domestic level or global level, we can start with the ASEAN perspective. So I think that is very appropriate for us to look into this context in terms of to look at where Malaysia is as a maritime nation in providing the much needed human capital in this area within the ASEAN perspective in the first place. Let's look at that. Previously, we know that the topics of the discussion, yeah, in terms of the subjects offered for this program, includes maritime finance, maritime security, and some uncommon maritime disciplines which is related to the trade, yeah, shipping markets. But as we understand, it also involves the legal, yeah, the regulation perspectives, as mentioned by Datuk Ishak, that we need to look at the process, the interdisciplinary, in terms of the interdependency of the governance. So in terms of subject offering from the universities, as I was looking as UMT in the first place, being having the vision and mission to be a leader, a player for this maritime and also environment sector with respect to bringing the knowledge in marine science and technology. So we look at the fact that traditionally it may be embedded in some of the business schools, yeah, but we need to look into the area where much needed the technical skills as well. So we have a faculty in ocean engineering, yeah, in terms of looking into other aspects of technology, and as well as by utilizing the application of the IT in this era, whereby informatics simulations, yeah, can be physical simulation, it can be computer simulations. So the fact that we have this the platform that we have at this university, we are now streamlining, but at the same time mainstreaming, so that our rating as an academic institution, as you are aware, that we have emerged in the top 200, yeah, in terms of the ASEAN QS ranking recently. Traditionally, we are looking into the fisheries and aquaculture, where UMT has, originally it was born, but looking at the oceans as a whole, we know that there are a lot of opportunities in the maritime sector, of which our country needs, yeah, the relevant, the right group of people. So I would like to show the slide on in terms of Malaysia as a maritime nation. We have, boleh tak tengok the slide, Malaysian sector as a maritime nation, yeah. For example, in terms of Malaysian ship ownership, yeah. When you talk about earlier on to be a leader, a captain of the ship, yeah. But when Malaysia having these tools or platform vessels in the global shipping industry, about only 20%. But Malaysia involved in the intra-ASEAN trade shipping, about 30%. But 75% of Malaysian vessels in domestic in OSV services. That is our strength. But as well as we are conquering the domestic, yeah, Malaysia vessels in domestic shipping, as well as we are involved solely in the vessels in tugboat operation. So, what kind of skill sets of people that you need? So we need to train.
Dia sudah kena sini sebelah sikit. Kita punya kebun sudah kena sikit bakar.
So we need to train and to have these certifications of officers, particularly even in the merchant ships or even naval ships. So we need to increase in the demand for the shipping industry. So do you see the slide on the screen? Yeah, in terms of composition of our involvement in the vessels and the much needed trained personnel, in this discipline. Okay, I would like the challenges, looking at the challenges for scenario, if we were to compete, particularly in the ASEAN region, we need to come up from our comfort zone. So that's my first take, moderator, for this question. Tak dengar? Unmute. Unmute. Unmute.
Mohon moderator untuk unmute.
Dibagi itulah. Bagi
Cannot
message.
hear you.
Can you
Bagi
hear me
message.
now?
Bagi message.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So let me recall what I was just saying just now. No, I was just saying, Dato, the slide that you showed was very helpful in terms of zeroing in on the components of what makes Malaysia a great maritime nation. Already kita punya global maritime CV is quite impressive, and ini bukan case masuk bakul agak sendiri. We can really claim to have some impressive achievements. Not only in terms of our size, which is, for a population of 33 million for a country our size, our maritime achievement on the global scale is really, truly quite impressive. I mean, Malaysia has been on the International Council of IMO for a number of years now. In MISC, we have one of the world's largest shipping lines in energy carriers. We have world-class ports. We have, shipyards which can produce various types of vessels, even for the overseas market. We have good maritime administrators, great naval arcs. Our seafarers are known to also be of good quality, and our offshore oil and gas industry is also considered consists of people of high talent and skills and so on. But what Datuk mentioned today is quite telling, that there's what is needed is tighter linkages and also cooperation and collaboration. And you rightly pointed out, Datuk, during your opening salvo tadi, that the nature of maritime, the borderless seas, really bukan requires but demands that cooperation and collaboration, interdisciplinary, departmental, interministerial collaboration and cooperation should really be the pivot that ties everything together. And this is where events like this, again, is one of many steps that are required in order to create that kind of linkages, and long may this kind of linkage continue lah. And again, Dato', in UMT sendiri pun, UMT has got this program called Malim Industry. Maybe Dato' later can elaborate on that, whereby industry leaders are invited to the academia to share their experience. And the fact that I'm appointed as adjunct professor at UMT is also one of the examples of this. It's also a program called CEO on Campus, which I understand is also practiced in various universities. And in the case of Pusat, I'd like to share that there was a time that we invited a university lecturer to be attached to us for a couple of months when we developed first sustainability report. As a listed company of Bursa Malaysia, we are required to come up with a sustainability report. and this particular lecturer was working on a PhD in sustainability, but she came in with a lot of value adding guidance and so on, and guiding us on how to come out with that sustainability report. So I think those are the kind of linkages which are required. And I'm very encouraged by what Datuk Isham mentioned earlier, that he is welcoming of industry and academia to point out to policymakers, to MOT, to other related government agencies on archaic procedures or rules and regulations that need to be updated. So we should really take that as a challenge. I mean, we really welcome that kind of openness coming from the ministry, especially from Secretary General himself. So moving on, let me just now invite Captain Muhammad Halim Ahmad, SCB bahagian Maritim MOT, untuk memberikan 10 patah dua kata in relation to what you think in terms of where we stand currently. And Captain Halim, you are in a good position to share this and maybe support what I said earlier about our stand internationally, because you had the experience of being our IMO attaché in London, and maybe you can help us enlighten us on where we stand and what we need to do further to really strengthen our global competitiveness on the maritime field. Silakan, Captain Halim.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nazri. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, thank you UMT for inviting MOT as a panel discussion. Although originally it's supposed to be Cik Norma, my Deputy Secretary General, but unfortunately for some reason that we will be able to be here this morning. So that's why I'm here to take over the role as a panelist. With me, actually, there are my team here along with me, a few of my senior officers together with us. I prepared just one or two slides to keep us rolling, and just also want to retract again what have been said by my Secretary General, Datuk Ishak. In terms of maritime governance, we have challenges that we have faced globally, regionally, and also domestic scene. Globally, we have numbers of international treaties pressured by commercial issues that have effect to our maritime governance. And of course, regionally, we have ASEAN, we have APEC, we have also ASEAN +3. So we have also TTE, these trilateral straits between Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, plus also have BIM-YAGA. So there are many other regional as well that we have so far. That also includes this IMTGT. There are issues on domestic as well. The domestic one is a bit unique for Malaysia compared to other members in the ASEAN region. What we have now is that we have a segregated maritime governance. So as been mentioned, there are many ministries, and is more than 10 ministries and 31 maritime related agencies. Globally, we always look up into others, probably countries who have one particular ministry to look at the whole issues of maritime affairs. But at the same time, we can also look into others who have similar to us, many ministries and many maritime agencies. But there are, I would say that there is no particular model fits all. It depends on the country itself, the diversity that we have, and, because some country will look into the area of regimentations. Maybe that particular country regimentations fits for them. Uniform base, that kind of way of maritime governance. But in Malaysia, I would say we should be more of casual and open because we are more of the economic base. So instead of regimentation, so we will look into more on the economic angle. Because I think maritime is one of our economic driving force for the country because of the interface between the manufacturers and the of course the interface here is our ports. Why the ports is important for Malaysia? Because we are in a very strategic locations in the what you call vital shipping lane. We have these Straits of Malacca with us, and of course Straits of Singapore down south. Singapore means the Strait of Singapore. We also have a very good contributor economy down south, which is we have Pengerang. We also have Tanjung Pelepas. And for the audience to know that last year, Pengerang, the only port, have made a very significant improvement from the rank 18 to 15 in 2020. Although despite with all the pandemic problems, we have made a major contribution on that note. And Malaysia is the only country having two ports, which is Port Klang and Tanjung Pelepas. This with regards to container ships. The busiest port among the top 20 apart from China. China, we have many ports in their country within the top 20. And Malaysia, we have two. So other country, they only have one. If you talk about Singapore, of course, but Singapore is only Singapore. Okay. Issues on the segregated maritime governance. First of all, of course, in the purview of maritime, the Ministry of Transport, it will look into the transport safety and regulations. Maritime transport safety, focusing on ship itself, the people working on the ship, and the ancillary services on the ship or about the ships. That includes the ports, and then the port workers, and those people who are related to shipping and ports. These are the transport safety and regulations. Then there comes into enforcement issues. Enforcement issues, there are many versions of this. And maritime enforcement issues on maritime transport, we still relates to port, ship, people, the people who look, and also the water. The column of water on the purview of maritime, the Ministry of Transport, we're more looking at the safety part of it. That is the safety navigation parts. But of course, there are other elements, which is maritime security. Maritime security under Ministry of Transport is under the ISPS code, where the port and ship interface. So these are the issues on Ministry of Transport. Other than that, the sovereignty issue is not under the Ministry of Transport. This is other agency. The issue of environment with regards to the ship, yes, we have this MARPOL or international conventions, pollution from ship, rather than the environment on the issues of the coast. Coast is more on different ministry. And of course, foreign relationship. Foreign relationship, we always work very well with Wisma Putra, and for everyone to also for benefit. Today, we will going to make another history in the making, where Malaysia will enter to a signing ceremony with France on this Ayala Convention. So at probably at 4 o'clock afterwards. So if we manage to put on the live feed in Ministry of Transport Facebook, please welcome to log in and watch our signing ceremony. So this is the first time, in fact, this kind of activity where the signing ceremony is of any international or treaty is signed outside the host country. So we are making a records now. Okay, why we segregated under the maritime governance? We have inherited a system from our forefathers. So we have this called federation system, have state system. This is something that, like I said earlier, there's no model of having to make this maritime governance fits for all. But for Malaysia, although we inherited, looks like it's worked well with us. So we have this system, we honor the system, we respect the system, and so far it works well. But of course, there are a number of improvements we have to make. So this system, so far, I would say probably it's worked for Malaysia. I wouldn't say it could be the best, but it worked for Malaysia because we address the issue of the people of Malaysia in terms of maritime governance. And then, of course, we have the notion of blue economy. That is on the fishery side, and then the maritime domain awareness, where the management of Malaysia's sea must be based on balancing needs as a continuum of using sea for the economic activities without sacrificing the maintain security, safety, and marine environment. This is basically related to UNCLOS. Okay, can we go for the next slide? Okay, so where do we go from here? The synergizing strategy. The strategy is to encourage that the maritime related agency to avoid the overlapping jurisdictions and conflicts of interest between sectors. Sometimes even agencies under the ministry, the same ministry also, we have conflicts and interest. That's why our KSU have put a vision to put how can we drive a policy, especially for the ports, can be made in one so that they do not compete each other. So in fact, they should be complement each other. So this is what the ministry is trying to do. We are try to figure out how especially we start off with the federation ports first. The federation ports authorities can be formed where the formulations of policies and commercial parts can be addressed among them, and we will in the ministry we will just put a guiding principle where this thing will complement each other rather than competing each other. As on ocean governance, we should recognize that through a sound national ocean policy, and the ministers and concerned need to be coordinating it through adoptions of a co-management principle. So this is with Ministry of Transport, we work well with Wisma Putra and CASA. CASA is on the environment and maritime foreign issues with Wisma Putra. And what is the assurance that these objectives are going to be fulfilled in the coming future? So to start a ball rolling of discussions later on, these are the few things that maybe strike out a balance later on for the discussions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Captain Halim, for that very succinct demonstration of where the loopholes and the weak links are at. From a supply chain perspective, as the saying goes, a supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So kita boleh nampak daripada presentation Captain Halim, walaupun tak panjang, tapi menampakkan yang ada banyak room for improvement, especially in terms of what he mentioned about synergy among government agencies. As he mentioned, there are close to over 20-something various ministries and government agencies involved in the maritime sector. So for the longest time, there has been suggestions. Even when I was in Mima dulu, we conducted a stakeholder session and even mini forums to discuss the viability of forming a Ministry of Maritime Affairs, macam countries like Indonesia, Japan, Korea, and so on. Again, this has been mooted for a long time. So maybe that idea is worth deliberating again, whether it makes sense or is viable or not, given the current situation that we're in, especially in the context of globalization, in the context of our rising dependence on the seas for our economic growth, in the context of Industry 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0, and also in the context of a post-pandemic landscape, which requires a new way of thinking, innovative solutions, adjusting to new normals, which the maritime industry is still struggling with to a certain extent. Captain Alim also mentioned about he didn't use the term, but Captain Alim menjurus ke arah apa yang disebut sebagai whole of government approach. In other words, breaking down silos or walls or borders or obstacles within government agencies to work together towards enhancing the efficiency of the maritime sector in areas as what I mentioned, for example, infrastructure development, issue navigation, seafarers' welfare, sustainable management of our ocean region and also of our marine and coastal environment in terms of ocean law and policy and so on. So Malaysia being a country which is, again, at the forefront of adopting the major international conventions on maritime, it's always to be seen to be leading from the front. This is obviously part of not only being a good corporate, global citizen, especially in the maritime industry, but also playing our role as an international council member of IMO. So among developed and developing nations, we are seen actually as a champion and as a macam big brother to lead in the way of ratification and adoption of international conventions on maritime. Okay, so moving on, let me now pass the floor to Datuk Abdul Haq Muhammad Amin, Chairman of MASA and also Big Boss of EA Technic, to share his thoughts on what entails global competitiveness and what can be done from your perspective, Datuk, as a ship owner and also to a certain extent shipbuilder, and from the point of view of MASA itself on how to enhance our togetherness among the maritime community and towards attaining greater global competitiveness. Silakan, Datuk.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Encik Nazri Khalid, Adjunct Professor UMT. Good morning, everybody. Datuk-datuk, yang berbahagia, Datuk Isham, kalau masih ada lagi. Thank you very much. I think what you asked just now for us to 5 minutes untuk kasih kita 5 minutes untuk apa tu? Just to warm up. So I just leave it my other presentation ataupun discussion at a later part. But what you mentioned just now is regarding what the industry think regarding the global this global competitive forum. I would like to recall what Yang Berbahagia Datuk Isham tadi mentioned. One of the issues that also plaguing the industry is regarding the overlapping of agencies in Malaysia. I think we have I thought it was about 13-14 agency, but tadi if I overheard correctly, Datuk Isham mentioned about 31. There's a little bit too many. So I think this is one thing that need to be addressed. If you look at our southern neighbor, they have only one agency, MPA, handling all the shipping coming out and all the necessary requirement for ships to come in. So I think this need to be addressed because overlapping agency is not good for the industry to move forward, especially for the shipping company. And also, I also like to take note of the issue of the words mentioned by KSU tadi regarding enhancing the maritime sector in the to be competitive globally in Malaysia, for Malaysia to be competitive globally. So I think it's very important here because we have a council seat in London, in IMO, so that is very important. And then we need to be really focused on what we are doing now moving forward, because we don't want to be a follower, we want to be a leader, as what mentioned by Yang Berbahagia Datuk Isham tadi, because all the time we have been a follower, but having a seat at London we can be one of the leaders in the global arena of the shipping industry. We need to intervene earlier if any proposal brought by the Western country. We need to intervene if it is detrimental for our survival, especially in our industry. And recently we had this proposal by the Western country to include palm oil as a category X, meaning that category X is a dangerous cargo. Kita makan dangerous cargo, kita goreng pakai dangerous cargo. This is what Western country is perceiving about palm oil. So it's a these are our main export. So we need to intervene this kind of. We cannot be just a follower. We need to, together with ASEAN country, like mentioned by KSU tadi, that we need to be the leader, and then to stop all this nonsense by the Western country, because it will affect our exports. And also to be competitive globally in the shipping industry, we also need to look at the issues of our balance of payment, especially on the freight. In 2019, we have about 30 billion of freight carried by foreign shipping companies. So we need to address this. This is very important because there's a lot of we can get a lot of things out of if we can reduce this balance of payment. So basically, that is my views on this 5 minutes that you gave me to talk about this global competitiveness. So I think this is we will discuss later on whatever issues, but I think this is just to warm up for me to say something on this forum. Thank you. I pass back to the moderator.
Okay, terima kasih banyak Datuk. Datuk, you mentioned something which is very important in terms of flexing our muscle and standing up to the big bullies, which are the developed nations, especially in a gelanggang macam IMO, as we know, is very highly political. Sometimes, nampak macam the conventions are all introduced for the betterment of the maritime community in general. Tapi there are some hidden agendas, some commercial interests, and so on, which we have to be mindful about. So in our eagerness to play the part to become a globally responsible maritime nation, we also need to do our homework. We need to be wary of certain hidden agendas and so on, which may run counter against interests of the country as a maritime nation, and also in the interests of industry players. So again, this is not some conspiracy theory, tapi this is where, again, I want to emphasize the importance of strong linkages between all of us. For example, in the academia, I can guarantee you a lot of good research done on in vast areas of maritime studies. Unfortunately, not all of them get to be shared with industry players. And of course, industry players do not have the capacity to undertake R&D. Dan kita tak ada time because we are just busy maximizing shareholders' value and struggling with everyday operations and commercial interests. we have no time to look into the bigger aspect of things. And of course, as Datuk Isham sendiri mengaku, from the MOT punya point of view, they are just busy doing day-to-day things, administrative or policy parts of things and so on, regulatory works. So tak ada time nak look into the big picture. So with greater sharing and greater connectivity and synergy among all these players, all the players within the maritime ecosystem kat Malaysia ni, we will be able to tap into each other's brains, unpack new ideas, get into insights, and also be much aware of the kind of issues which, for example, yang Datuk Haq mentioned tadi, for example, in terms of the campaign, smear campaign by the West against palm oil. They want to discredit us. They've been doing this for a long time. They say we're killing all our orangutans by planting more pokok kelapa sawit and so on. Tapi yang kita ni, we didn't counter all this simply because we didn't have the bullets, or even we don't know how to fire these bullets. So that's something which is worth pondering as we go along to discuss this particular topic. Moving on, let me just now invite Datuk Dr. Sabrin Jaafar, Ketua Pengarah MIMA, Institut Maritim Malaysia, think tank di bawah Ministry of Transport, to share his thoughts on the subject of togetherness in moving forward for maritime global competitiveness. Silakan Datuk Sabrin. Datuk, are you there?
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Ajong Nazri Khalid, and distinguished panelists. My note and presentation is guided by some proposed question by the organizer yesterday. So much of my presentation has been discussed by the previous speakers. However, let me try to deal with some of the question given by the organizer. First, how MIMA leads the integration and comprehend the various government agencies involved in the maritime sector in coherence with Malaysian maritime policy. I think this is a very problem subject, and I think we need to really think long and hard about this. But MIMA, as its own DNA, that we are established in 1993, we are the think tank, probably the sole think tank for maritime affairs established by the government, and in our board of directors, MIMA is a company limited by guarantee, owned by the government, and I think all the senior most officials involving in maritime matters in Malaysia are in MIMA's board. We are 14 board members strong, and we have the Chief of Navy, we have the KSU of Foreign Affairs, we have this Undersecretary of the Ministry of Transport, and this MKN DG, as well as a DG of Perikanan and some others. I think this is the assembly of, I can call the senior most people in this industry. It's very important, in which we can think and consider many things which is good for the betterment of our maritime sector in Malaysia. By using these stakeholders, I think we can have a very good and thorough discussion. MIMA now we have met more often than before among the stakeholders. We are engaging a lot of people involved in maritime, locally and abroad, and we are happy that we can see that the country is moving to the direction. Talking about the proposed Malaysia maritime policy, this was also raised in the previous MIMA board of directors meeting, in which MIMA was asked to start a study on this and to engage our stakeholders, and we are doing it now. we are happy, to get inputs from other agencies. Of course, MIMA is not the implementer. We have to go through the channel. We have to consult a lot of other people. However, I'm really happy that this thing was raised during board meeting, that they said MIMA now should probably focus on this. So when I got invitation from UMT, and one of the target is about this, and I'm so happy that we can share as what Prof. Rani said. This, if we walk alone, we can walk fast, but to walk to go further, we must walk together. And I think this is what MIMA will really cherish. I move to the second one. They think about what is your view about the sustainability issues need to be upheld to promote national maritime reputation and long-term strategic partnership. I think we need urgently to have a very clear and implementable policy on maritime matters. We must think now about what will happen in 50 years from now. We have a lot of competition from neighbor countries, but as what Datuk Isham said in the morning, that we must work in the kerangka ASEAN, which I think is good. It's good. However, for our own survival, and future, we must look at certain things that is happening around us now. Like for a long time, we thought that the issue of Isthmus Kra Canal is Cold War relics. But now, when starting from 1st March, they have already declared that they're going to have this land bridge across Isthmus Kra. Then there's something I think we must make a real study and how it affect our shipping and our economic depending from the maritime sector.
Datuk Sebenarnya, can I interject sekejap? There are some requests by the ladies for you to show your handsome face.
Oh, really? I think I'm on.
Tak lah, we cannot see your tunjuklah sikit orang betapa handsome ni orang masih tanah.
I don't know how to operate this, but I can see myself on the screen.
Unfortunately, we cannot see you, so
I think.
Sorry to interrupt, but we can.
Yeah, probably you can see me after during the Q&A session.
Okay, during the photo session nanti. Alright, thanks.
My voice.
Please proceed. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, okay. So see this Kra, the land bridge is something that we must really look, and there's some like a muted silence, a muted response from Singapore and Malaysia on this. But I think this is something we should probably think about. We know that 85% of our economy depends on maritime. From the UNCTAD of 80% of the world economy is based on maritime, and say we must have data. So MIMA is very enthusiastic in collecting data. Now we are now making a collaboration with UTM to have what we call it the Malaysian Maritime Analytic Dashboard. We focus on 5 clusters. We hope we can get a real data actually how many Malaysian population really involved directly or indirectly in maritime sectors, be it from government sector or from the private sector. And when we have this data, then probably we can help government department and agencies how to focus and how to move, and we see like a guided approach to what will happen to the country in the future. So we are keen in looking at the really long term. If America can say under the James Pearl about the American century, probably we should start thinking now about what we have in 100 years' time. Can Strait of Malacca, continue to be the focal point for world shipping transit, for the next 50, 100 years. Our ports are ready, can be become more modern. Should we automate more these ports in the country? Should we focus on the container ships? Be increased or whatever. So this is, and probably now, if we think about if the Kra project is successful, we should think whether we should focus now on these Borneo States ports like Labuan. So this is something I think need a a lot of input from all agencies, so we can think it together and how to determine, or make sure that we will be still a force to be reckoned with in the years to come. Another thing I want to discuss is about the importance of the Industry 4.0. So I think we can see after the last few weeks, a lot of videos about WhatsApp messages about the rise of Indonesia. So it's part of ASEAN, but I think in the discussion with Sarawak State Government on the cabotage policy, in which we are happy that they wholeheartedly adopted the policy in which MIMA made a study commissioned by the Ministry of Transport. One of the panelists mentioned about that they copy our cabotage policy and then they enforce it starting from a 3,000 national flag in Indonesia. Now they are numbering up to 30,000 these Indonesian flag vessels in the country. So that seems that the policy is good, but I think probably Malaysia should do, if not equal, better than this, because we are the one who imposed this cabotage policy since 1980. So I think we need more information from all sectors, how we can go together in this area of automation and Industry 4.0, and how our ports can really compete or not losing out to other new ports. So MIMA has made a study. We go to Taiwan, in which they have a very state of the art, the new the modern ports, so to speak. And another thing about legal thing, I'm thinking now, it's just my own personal thing. How we can actually merge all these things. If we have this Malaysian Maritime policy, how can actually we do it? We have a legal some sort of support on this. We have various acts, working independent of each other. Probably it's time now for us to think about having an umbrella act involving in all these maritime matters. We probably it's time for us to set up, a force independent, like we have probably Suruhanjaya or Commission on Maritime, and this act should focus on how actually to bring Malaysia forward in terms of economics. Probably you can have something like we call it Malaysian Maritime Development Act, probably. So this also is something I think that we need to think long and hard, how this could be implemented. So the all things maritime can work together under one direction, one clear and implementable direction. So I've spoken to a number of consultants. We have a consultant in the UK about this, and they think we should have what we call it like a bespoke, tailor-made acts which can really predict what will happen with the competition from neighbors or from the whole world, and how should we survive. And this should be contemplated in the act. So I think I have a lot more to say, but I think I probably give it the floor to Nazri before we can go to post-answer session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabirin. You just hit the hammer on the head with what you mentioned about lack of data. That has always been the so-called Achilles heel dalam Malaysian industry. Even within players within a particular sector pun find it difficult to get solid, user-friendly, timely, relevant data that will help their business and also apatah lagi policy makers kan. So I think one of the I must from my point of view, and this is not to diss anyone or to be critical of anyone, I think one of the failures, or rather the weaknesses, which this is a gorilla in the room issue which we need to confront right now, is the lack of data and solid information to guide policy makers dalam policy making, especially in the maritime industry. So at some point, maybe industry players pun have ourselves to blame. Because kita ni selalu cakap, people in Putrajaya tak ambil port pasal kita ni. Tapi kita sendiri tak put up a very solid, ironclad, convincing case to convince policy makers to revise policies, to come up with new ones, and also to give incentives without solid data. So as there's a saying in research, without data, you're just another fool with an opinion. Kan? So that could be something that we all need to. Especially now in the context of banyak teknologi baru macam blockchain, macam Internet of Things, big data analytics, predictive analysis. These are some of the components within Industry 4.0 which should be looked into and should be adopted. And if we were to deny this wave, we will all be swamped by it. So there's no point trying to swim against the technological tide. Apatah lagi sekarang ni in the context of the last 1 year, we've all become so adept at all kinds of new technologies. So we need to step up to the plate. We need to bring our A game to the field in terms of our adoption of the latest Industry 4.0 technology, in order to become more efficient, more productive, to put up a strong case, and also to develop a solid database for the maritime industry. Okay, again, I want to say that I'm mindful of a lot of questions coming in the chat box, but in the interest of time, we will just finish this so-called 5 minutes round. We have two more speakers which I would like to invite, beginning with Brother Vijay, my good friend from Port Klang Authority, AGM and Corporate and Development. So Vijay, take it away. Let's see your perspective from port management, from a port authority's point of view, of what constitutes maritime greatness and how we can improve our standing in the global maritime competitiveness index. Silakan Vijay. All yours, bro.
Very good morning, Professor Najri. Now, I have got a question first. Is it for 5 minutes or you want me to present my paper?
Jangan paper lah bang. Just try to be succinct and as quick as possible.
Okay,
without tripping over yourself.
I'll keep your cue. First of all, thank you very much to UMT for inviting Port Klang Authority to be on behalf of to be part of the forum here. First thing, Nazri's question was togetherness and how do we have these parameters of global competitiveness, right? As port is concerned, I would say that we wanted to remain attractive to shipping lines. That is my competitiveness. Second is to remain relevant to shippers, that means to consignees as well, in terms of cost and productivity. Third, to remain conducive to logistics players, the business environment. And fourth, especially to our Royal Malaysian Customs, to remain as the contributor of revenue. These are the 4 things in general terms. But to be very specific as to competitiveness, we have got under UNCTAD 46 parameters under the port performance indicators. One of it is in terms of volume handled at the port, as what rightfully mentioned. Port Klang consists of West Port and North Port. We are ranked number 12 busiest world port with a handling of 13.2 million TEUs in 2020, right? And of course, we have got our very good neighbor, PTP, have come up to rank number 15th in 2020. Right. Now, beside that, in terms of productivity, we can also measure the global competitiveness in terms of movement per hour. Currently at Port Klang, we are doing between 32 to 35 moves per hour. And we consider ourselves at par with the world ranking of other ports around the world, who's also making a move of 32 to 35 move per hour. There are other parameters as well. You can see the ship turnaround time, how long a ship has to wait in order to get berth, and how long it takes at the berth, as well as how long it takes to move from the berth. These are the calculative or quantitative parameters to say that how competitive we are in comparing with other ports or regional ports or global ports, right? Nazri, this is my 5 minutes view on the global competitiveness.
Okay, thank you very much. Time's up anyway, bro. Okay, Roman Nandri, thank you very much, Vijay, for your very Again, what Vijay has mentioned highlights the need for us to develop what Captain Halid mentioned earlier about developing domain awareness. The parameters that constitute a globally competitive port, as what Vijay mentioned, movement of crane per hour, throughput volumes, number of shipping lines, connectivity, landside logistics, speed and efficiency and cost competitiveness of clearing cargoes, which involves a very concerted effort of so many people. So this is something which PKA and its host ports, terminals cannot achieve on its own. It takes policies, it takes players in the logistics industry, it takes even back to the point of production, because ports are just basically trade facilitators. So kita nampak daripada sini yang kita perlukan kerjasama daripada semua pihak. Kita perlukan semua orang to be in tune in a way macam orkestra. Ni sebab dah setahun lebih tak pergi Dewan Filharmonik Orkestra ni, tiba-tiba mengidam nak pergi tengok orkestra. Because everyone has to be playing from the same sheet with the conductor. Again goes back to what I said about the chef part, the conductor that conducts everyone, so everyone plays from singing from the same sheet and also playing not out of tune and on cue. Bila dia punya time masuk tu, they can just bang their gong or whatever, play their instrument, their violin or their woodwind instrument. So that is what it takes in order to. And again, I want to emphasize, all the players in the industry are here. Everyone is there. Tak ada satu instrumen pun dalam orkestra Maritime Malaysia ni yang kurang. Ada semua instrumen, ada semua facilities, great hall, great audience, ready market. Cuma that assurance that everyone is playing in time, on tune, on the same beat, in order to produce harmonious melodic music is the X factor which is missing, which none of us on our own can unravel and can solve, but we need a concerted effort from everyone. Okay, now we are down to one more person to speak, certainly last but not least. Let me welcome my good friend, Mr. Su Jimin, Amin President, Association of Marine Industries of Malaysia, which counts all the shipyards in the country as its members, and also all the marine supporting industry players, including naval arc, marine equipment manufacturers, and so many others, class societies, and so on. So, Mr. Su, the floor is yours. Take it on. Sue, are you there? Your microphone is unmute. Good. Secretariat, can you alert Mr. Sue to turn on his mic?
Hello. Okay. Hey, thank you, Brother Nazri. Datuk, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We, as an industry lead bodies, when we come talking about global competitiveness, I think we Malaysian shipyard are good in terms of building the small vessel. What we focus here is maybe 120 meter and below. For your information, as per January 2020, Malaysia ranked world number 7 in terms of brake horsepower building of offshore supply vessel. We are in front of Vietnam, Japan, Korea, and Germany. So we just signed a MOU recently with Petronas for the 5 years plan, building up about 80 offshore supply vessels, total value about more than ringgit Malaysia 3 billion. So if this project will be built outside of Malaysia, so we can imagine how much is a loss to the country. We, we are pushing for the motto Malaysian built for Malaysia. I think Malaysian shipbuilder are great, and for your information, one of the offshore supply vessels built in 1983 and still surviving and service in the Western country. Also, we are looking into fishing boat modernization, where most of you know a lot of our fishing boats are still using the wooden ones. So there is a need for the fishing boat modernization from the fishery department to build the new fishing boat being composite or steel. And we also looking into yachting and leisure boat industry, which we think is a big industry coming soon, because elsewhere in the world they are all powered up of the yachting and the boat. I think over here in the Asian country, there's a big opportunity for us, and this industry really can bring in good flow of money. And I do agree with Datuk Dr. Sabrin about the cabotage rule. I think why not relevant ministry or the government agency look into the cabotage rule. For example, look at Pertamina. They only allow vessel built in Indonesia to be worked in Indonesia water. Why not Petronas looking at this and then enforce these rules so that all the vessels used in Malaysia water have to build in Malaysia? As for my information, there is about more than 300 vessels in the Malaysia water for the offshore supply vessel, but less than 50% are built in Malaysia and owned by Malaysian. So I urge the ministry or the relevant agency to look into this matter seriously. That's all for my 5 minutes presentation. Back to you, Nazri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shu. I think that says it all, that associations can play a very pivotal and vital role in terms of helping to develop the marine industry. So again, this may be a little bit of a promotion for AMIM, but AMIM has always been at the forefront of helping its members. And I'm sure the same goes to all the other associations and maritime in this country, like INGMAL, like MASA, Maestra, and so on. So always keen on the lookout for their members' interest to promote development and also to help the business of members. At the same time, maintaining competitiveness and also not be disruptive to market forces. So we have heard from all the panelists on their point of view on all the major aspects of their particular jurisdictions. And it has been very, I would say, very all-encompassing, to use an old term, helicopter view. Maybe that tak relevant lah. Maybe drone view lah, sebab sekarang helicopter dah replaced by a drone kan. Let me just take one or two questions from the audience. There's one from Dr. Rosni, from UMT. She was asking about the advancement of ship technology, especially ships in the category of wing in the ground effect craft. I'm not very familiar with this. Tapi in general, she would like to know what are the, let me just rephrase this question, Dr. Rosni, because the question may be a little bit technical. Tapi in the advent of other things, like for example, unmanned shipping, which is already being tested. There's already prototypes of unmanned shipping. For example, artificial intelligence used on board ships. UAV, drones, remotely operated vehicle. What are the regulations, guidelines, rules being introduced to catch up with this new advent in technologies in shipping? Can maybe Captain Halim, can I bring this to Captain Halim in a table to answer? Maybe Dr. Sabirin also, whether kok dekat MIMA dah ada start buat research in this particular area? Or maybe even later on, Datuk maybe from a Masa point of view, have you got anything to share, any developments among your members on emerging technologies in shipping, and whether the guidelines and rules and regulations are catching up with it? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nazri. From the chat room, I think there are numbers of questions been raised. The first one that I reflect just now asked about hydrographic issue. This using of unmanned vehicle. So currently, there is no act or regulations with regards to hydrographic yet, and MOT currently is trying to strengthen up our hydrographic issue with regards to hydrographic surveys and dredging in ports. So this is something that Ministry of Transport and the Marine Department is working on, but the act and regulation have yet to come. With regards to wing in ground, currently there's no regulations per se, and I think the demand for wing in ground also it has been lapsed probably, because there was a proposal to have a wing in ground between Malacca and Sumatra, but now with this proposal of wing in ground, probably the demand is no longer there. But we will always keep on our radar on this technology. Autonomous ship, yes, this is a big thing in the IMO. If we look into the IMO meeting documents with regards to autonomous ships, or MAS they call it, there's a long, many documents have been proposed by member states, as that is not only for the physical ships, there is also documents on proposal on the operations of it, as well as the seafarers of it. So nothing concrete yet, is still under the technical debates in the IMO, but so far for Malaysia, we are participating on these, all the three elements of the autonomous ships development in the IMO. With regards to the domestic, I think we are coming up with our Jabatan Laut. It came up with our hydrographic vessel which is unmanned. So probably we kick off from there on. How we're going to move further on this. Revisit of I think Mr. Su came up with the cabotage issue. So what he proposing is that the cabotage, what he is trying to propose is a very strict cabotage policy. So this is something like, on the other hand, the audience probably aware what have happened in the past months, where Ministry of Transport is trying to reinstate, not trying, we have reinstated cabotage again on the underwater cable. There was a big explosions in the international news as well, that the strict cabotage policy may work and may also have a repercussion or impact on it. But economically, cabotage policy, we have to gauge it very carefully, because why, when we put a strict cabotage policy on ship itself, it may have another impact on the economy. So we have to balance this in these issues very carefully. We do not want, by having a strict cabotage policy, goods will go up very high. Although we know that we have conduct a study recently with Lima, probably Dr. Sabirin will you can add on that the price of goods in our friends in Sabah and Sarawak actually got nothing to do with cabotage policy. So that was the preliminary studies we made by MIMA in last year. on the proposal to use this NBEC, National Blue Economic Corporation, is a good suggestion. Maybe we can have a more further discussion on this, and we will see how this thing can explore further by the research institute. Probably UMT can also look at it. Thank you, Nazri.
Okay. Of course, I'm pretty sure that others will have a lot to say about this, but in the interest of time, again, let me just move on to the next question. There is a question posed by Haji Razak, who's the president of association called Maestra. He was making reference for the fact that there are so many ministries and agencies involved in the maritime sector, and again making reference to my kitchen and chef analogy. Banyak ingredients, banyak recipes, banyak equipment, tapi tak ada chef to come up with the right menu. So his question is maybe anyone, maybe I'll just assign to particular people to take this question. He would like to ask whether all these ideas that have been mooted, dedicated maritime ministry macam dekat Korea, Indonesia, is it too costly for the government budget? According to an info from his association, MASTRA, Maritime Strategic Association of Malaysia, is of the view that a dedicated entity should be established in lieu of a dedicated ministry. He's even mooting the name National Blue Economy Corporation. Kita dah ada NBOS, National Blue Ocean Strategy, maybe it can be as a subset of this, to be responsible for the sustainable economic development of the nation's maritime resources and economic activities. So let's just, and also a question on what are the views of the panel members about this particular corporation, NBEC, as he suggested. So let me just try to pick on the brains of Datuk Noraini dulu, followed by Dr. Sabirin on this. Oh, finally we get to see how good looking orang Masjid Tanah is. Hi, Dr. Sabirin, how are you?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Datuk VC, let me just pass the microphone over to you to answer this question. Silakan.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much, everyone. Very useful information and discussion that we had so far, and then input from the panel members. And I would like to thank the questions also from the audience that actually steer our discussion in terms of where we are heading. One is talking about the proposed, we must have a policy in place, dedicated policy in place, and the particular act, as mentioned earlier by Mima, was about Maritime Act. And the issues related to it, including in terms of affecting our competitiveness, including our panel member speakers mentioned about the balance of payments and perhaps our concern in our freight competition with foreigners. At the same time, earlier on, we have issues about foreigners on board. So we talk about the enhancement of our marine talents and what maritime education and training could actually support that sector. Later on, we discuss about the cabotage policy, of which we are of my concern as well. I would like to echo that I will support to look into these very issues in terms of how good we, in the first place, traditionally we can come up with very good policies, but in terms of implementation, what's wrong with us whereby other people can take our policy and can actually spearhead on the implementation. Again, home build vessels, that's what the area that we've been trying to get our own capacity building in making our own vessels. Technologies, you talk about built-in areas of the state-of-the-art technologies, especially with regards to IR 4.0, we could embed that into our education system in terms of the use of it, the application of it. That's why we have this data science, data informatics, and then concern about data management and sharing data diplomacy. Again, we talk about how to be competitive in terms of our subject, in terms of offering. Basically, the Seafarers program, initially, we could re-emphasize and reskill in terms of putting into elements of the security, as mentioned earlier, as well as safety. That's why the STCW, through the help of marine departments, we have formed this assurance that our graduates or trained people are internationally recognized. So that's the reason why other programs that we have, professional accreditation, for example, through the CILT, for the logistic and transport, from Malaysian Board of Technologies, MBOT, IEM, as well as we have other challenges in terms of putting together with the industry experts on campus, working together. For example, we had the Center of Excellence on Maritime as well for transport and logistics. So now with the Center of Excellence for Maritime, and also another segment of the University, UMT particularly, I would like to highlight here, our initiative is to actually putting the ingredients together, whereby the Center of Excellence for the ocean governance will be made useful for the country under the Institute of Oceanography and Environment. So talking about policy, I just want to share, because I've been at the Ministry of Science. I tried to call everyone to have this gathering, and then we have formulated a national ocean policy back then. So it was a draft, and we are talking of how to put together, instead of looking at the overlapping concern, redundancies. We look at the strength, look at the positive side of it. How can we strengthen these multi-functions, as mentioned by Datuk just now, in terms of the interdependencies? But how can we complement and we strengthen and mainstream and focus this initiative? So with the suggestion on the National Blue Economy Corporation, it's a corporation. So I think it's worth for us to discuss further by taking all the input of the stakeholders, particularly how are we going to fare in terms of the economic terms? How is the equity in terms of sharing this facility and the state of the art? So the technology has to be there. As far as UMT is concerned, I visited before the COVID, the International Maritime Center and then World Maritime University in Malmo, and how our program will actually be linked to the world, the leading institution that producing all these maritime human resources in the world. So that's back then we are talking about this collaboration of having this exchange, and also on this distance learning program that we can actually cooperate. As far as we're concerned, education, we try our best by input from the industry, whereby for the policy part, I'm offering the expert group from the universities. We believe by having this, the policy makers, but at the same time, you need the support of the technical working group, of which I mentioned earlier in my speech in the beginning, on the various institutions that can provide their expert. But most importantly, we need to bring in the stakeholders who are actually every day facing with the issues. For example, in terms of the heritage underwater, you need to have technologies, technologies that relevant, mentioned just now about virtual reality, augmented reality, and probably mixed reality. So that could be, again, before the trained people going out, we need to get these elements to be already exposed to those people, because they are going to be the leaders, going to assist the industry as well as the government in this sector. So I just hope that after this discussion, when we talk about we need to come up with a certain policy or the grouping, we need to come up with a proposal. Should there be a dedicated minister, for example, or should there be an institute or corporation, as mentioned, that we should come up as a suggestion for the ministry to get the endorsement of the cabinet. for example. So I think as a way forward, I thank everyone for their input, and I just wish that to offer, we have various group of people that can actually assist to prepare the working paper, the declaration, as is going to be very useful as a way forward as the government to pay attention. Yes, we are good, but to capitalize in terms of the threats just now, yeah, the opening of the Isthmus of Corrupt. Yeah, so the proposed possible shifting of the port focus, for example, elsewhere. But the thing is, what's going to happen to Straits of Malacca? Yeah. So under the ocean component, I was the national representative of the International Oceanographic Commission, UNESCO. So now under a decade of ocean concern, ocean science, IMO is also a member to this ocean decade of the United Nations. So what are we in terms of to equip ourselves? We must bring together the human talents from the various sector in the quintuple helix as we suggested. So I just hope that from here, from this forum, we come up with a declaration that we want to move forward for the policy, but at the same time, we look into the appropriate issues, yeah, so that we can address the challenges appropriately, especially in terms of in terms of the readiness of embracing the technologies, embracing the new imposition in terms of the global policy that is imposed on us. So with that, we need to be prepared ourselves, and the academic should also come out in terms of giving their ideas together and sharing their research, sharing the data, so that we can come up with as a cohesive community for the maritime sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Datuk VC, for stealing about 95% of the points I was about to make. Just kidding. No, your summary is almost perfect, Datuk VC, because at the end of it, it goes back to human capital, manpower, woman lagi power dari man. So you have touched on a very core subject of maritime education and training. Without the men and women to monitor, to administer, to regulate, to manage, to operate, to plan, to research, all the equipment, all the world-class facilities that we have is almost as good as nothing. So you have also highlighted the need for us to again step up to the plate to the current wave of digitalization of the maritime industry in tandem with the digital global economy that we have. We have already, if I'm not mistaken, MITI has come up with an Industry 4.0 roadmap. And it's important that we are mindful of how the maritime industry can fit into this roadmap. Because in whatever that we do, kalau tak ada policy yang support the intention, it will just it will not fly again. So it's also important for us to prepare the young men and women to not only be trained in the complexities and also the mastery of skills required to flourish within the digital economy, apatah lagi in the current pandemic punya landscape ni, where everything is so tuned to latest applications such as virtual reality, artificial intelligence, even things like 3D printing, Internet of Things, big data analysis, predictive analysis, and so on. So the importance of maritime education and training cannot be overemphasized, and this is where the policy part of it also needs to be in tune with this. Let me just take one question from the floor. There's one that was posed by Jagan Jivan. He is asking. Oh no, this is not a question. This is more like there's one from. Let me see. There was a question from Che Ahmad Madri, who is lamenting the fact that seafarers are always left behind. I beg to differ. Janganlah macam tu, Cik Madri. Janganlah merajuk. Seafarers are always at the forefront of things. I mean, all the ships and ports would be nothing without ships, and ships would be nothing without seafarers. But again, the welfare of the seafarers is, I'm sure people like Captain Halim will support this statement of mine that seafarers' welfare is at the forefront of the agenda of not only MOT and through its agency Jabatan Laut, the Seafarers Welfare Unit and so on. And Malaysia is always at the forefront of ratifying international conventions protecting the well-being of seafarers. I'm not sure that Captain Halim, is there plans to designate seafarers as frontliners or essential workers during this time of pandemic? Because we know that seafarers have been taking a brunt of lockdowns and movement control restrictions. Hundreds of thousands of seafarers were actually stuck on board ships without, and being denied shore leave and so on. And even IMO itself described the situation as a humanitarian crisis. So, Dr. Halim, or maybe even others who can chip in can share a bit of developments on what have been taking place to protect the welfare of Malaysian seafarers during this time of pandemic. Captain Halim, silakan.
Okay, thank you, Nazri. The questions of is quite general, and it says that no concrete solution or no development plan for Malaysian seafarers, but there are many actually. When those days when I was the one who looked after the seafarers, we have done quite a bit on these issues. With regard to there are plans, of course, but the plan in the laid out in the Malaysian Master MSMP, Malaysia Shipping Master Plan. But because of the pandemic and then change of administration, so there's a little bit lacking on that part. But my officers have done an analysis because it's supposed to be midterm now, 20 because the plan was 2017 to 2022, but we have a breakdown of 1 year, and then change between MSMP to the previous one was National Shipping NMPC, I think that is National Port and Shipping Policy Councils. So this is something that we are reviewing and revisit again. Where we are now, what are the plans that have been laid out, how we can reinstate it or we restart it again. This is what you have mentioned, moderator, the post-pandemic. So how can we speed up this post-pandemic? So to say that we got no development plan, definitely. Otherwise, if there is no development plan, there will be no alarm, there will be no Ranako, there will be no even UMT, because UMT is also producing seafarers. Yeah. So the plan is always I think I stopped there because why? In regards to frontliner, we already addressed this issue with MKN that seafarers is essential workers, and with the second phase of vaccine, seafarers will be one of them.
Okay. Thank you, Captain Ali, for the assurance. Can I quickly, on the same subject, nak tanya Vijay sekejap. Vijay, how was it like at the port about a year ago when pandemic started to break out, and how was the arrangement of seafarers on board ships calling at Port Klang to go on board for rest and for crew change and so on? What was it like?
Okay, Nazri, with regards to the pandemic that hit, the whole world, with regards to ports per se, we would say that it was really stunning in the beginning, but our adaptability to the changes that what have happened will actually helped us a lot. And of course, the togetherness with Ministry of Transport and together with the other government agencies such as Customs, Immigration, Port Health, it was tremendously smooth so that we managed it very well. Right. And we had actually handled very well the entire SOP, and the industries also, we have to thank the industries because they have adapted to the SOP that was drafted by Port Klang Authority and executed and implemented by the terminal. With regards to the crew change, yes, with the government's order by MKN saying that there should not be, initially there should not be any crew sign-off, and then we adapted during the other phase of MCO, whereby we accepted the crew to come, come on shore as well, right? But with regards to passenger vessel, till now we are not allowing any passenger vessel.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I'm sure Datuk from a point of view of masa ship owners can support that contention. Datuk, may you just share a little bit about experience of seafarers during the time of pandemic, and also what are plans to foster the welfare of seafarers in the country. Silakan, Datuk.
Thank you, Encik Nazri. I think from the masa punya perspective regarding during the pandemic for these seafarers, I think it's quite a difficult issues that our members are facing, because you need only one crew member to be infected, and the whole ship will be quarantined about 14 days. Of course, now 10 days still is 1 day is still also too long. So basically, in that respect, that's why we from MASA we have wrote to all the authorities from KKM, MKN, Ministry of Transport to MOSPI regarding the importance of our seafarers to be vaccinated as a frontliner. Not only our seafarers, but also the others that are involved in the industry, like the class surveyor, cargo surveyor, pilot, mooring gang, who in contact with the ship. Because we can stay for 14 days at sea without anything, but when we come to the shore, when the ship bursts, then we have experienced that our crew got contacted with this COVID-19. So these are the issues that we hope the government will look into it, to put our seafarers as the frontliner, because it's important for the country, because shipping is one of the main contributor to the economy of the country. I don't know whether that I answer your question. If you have any other thing, maybe I can share also. Encik Nazri.
You can share with me over teh tarik petang nanti, Datuk, if you're free. Okay, I don't want to leave out our friends in the shipyards. Stu, maybe you can share also a little bit about some of the issues faced. I know it's not seafarer-centric, this question that you about seafarer, but let's not forget that ships cannot operate, ships cannot sail, ships cannot be in a seaworthy condition without the hard work of people at shipyard. So how was it like during the outbreak of the pandemic? I'm pretty sure that there was some pelepasan lah by the authorities for people to go to work at shipyards kan. I think there was some kind of allowance. I think shipyard, if I'm not mistaken, was considered as essential service at that time. You mind sharing, Mr. Su?
Yes, Najib, thank you. For your information, for the very beginning, first phase of the MCO, all the yacht in Malaysia, we're having difficulties because we are not, even though we are classified under essential service, but then the local authorities say we are not, and then it takes a lot of times and struggles. We have to go to MITI and talk to MITI, and then finally they classify us Limungan as essential service, which allow us to start move on the works. After that, most other SOP are coming along, tag along, where we have to do the swab test for all the workers, and there is cost incurs. So there is a lot of threats to the yacht rather than the opportunities. Even during the MCO period until now, the activity are running at very low level. Fortunately enough, we are having come into the MOU with the Petronas new building. So hopefully after the post-pandemic, all the yard will get moving up and get busy again. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Organizers are mindful of the time. Do we need to wrap this up by 12? Prof. Nasani, can you confirm? Or boleh curi masa sikit, masa tambahan sikit? Sebab masa tambahan banyak goal will be scored during masa tambahan. Dr. Wan, do we need to wrap this up by 12?
Now we have until 12:30.
Oh, until 12:30.
Until 12:30. Because we stop the round until 10 after 12, and we take the question for the audience 12 to 12:30. But we are already taking the question for the audience since I think 11.
Okay.
So to me, you can go on until 12:30.
Silap lah you bagi I that allowance. I will go on until 3:30. No, just kidding. I think I would like to go back to what we discussed earlier, because I really want to unravel this once and for all. This has been at the foremost of so many discussions over the years, so many forums and so on. And again, this idea of coming up with a single body maritime administrator or maritime authority in this country has been mooted. So almost always, all the forums melibatkan a discussion of this nature akan ada this suggestion. So as part of this deklarasi UMT ni, Datuk Noini, I would like to really put on paper, ready to think the brains of everyone here on whether this is really needed or not at this point in time. And again, I don't want to be taking sides. I don't want to influence anyone. But be mindful of the fact that some countries have had this arrangement to some varying degree of success. I think if I'm not mistaken, Japan dismantled the Ministry of Maritime Affairs. Now, maritime matters has been usurped under their Ministry of Land Transportation, kalau tak silap. Japan is quite unique in the sense that a country of that size cuma ada tak sampai a dozen government ministries. Compared to Malaysia, ada berapa ministries in this country? It's like every time government tukar, a few ministries will emerge, a few ministries will submerge. So again, I think the biggest contribution to this forum, I believe, to answer the question of attaining togetherness in maritime industry is to once and for all decide whether such a ministry is needed. So can I get Dr. Sabirin first to answer this question, because MIMA as the think tank, as the brain cells behind all policy making in this country, whether or not there have been, I'm sure over the years, I remember also conducting research on this, whether there is a revisit of this theme, or there has been dialogues with the authorities, industry players to really push this idea forward. Dr. Sabirin, silakan.
Well, thank you, Nazri. It's really a huge task for anybody and for any sector in maritime affairs in the country. But I just want to relate and explain before. Remember that we were talking about a single enforcement maritime agency before. We made a study, and then out of that we have this APMM came into being. And now we are celebrating probably the 16th year of the establishment of APMM. We have to look how difficult it was, or still it is, how to actually merge these 13 maritime enforcement agencies into under one roof, held by APMM. So when we talk about this single ministry for maritime, it is an ideal position. But being a politician myself, it is not easy because there are so many conflicting interests in this respect. And if measure transport, since I think the Merdeka days, it is always driven by one party, and this is and for us to, let's say, break away the maritime section from transport ministry, I think it is not an easy, path for us to follow. So this really need a political will. when talk about political will, I want to tell also about FMM where I worked for 2 years in its inception. Even the political will was not quite enough for that. Until now, I think we have our friend there, Asana Muda from FMM. There's a lot of things happening. So we have to tread with this very carefully, think long and hard about this and discussion, and if it can be done within the framework of the present ministry, well, I think we should continue with just do some penambahbaikan. And I think what I was probably more concerned, the need for us to some sort of amalgamate the functions. So there is actually one body. It may not be a ministry. It could be like Suruhanjaya or whatever who can actually has an act or a policy for them to really look through and enforce it, make it enforceable, practicable. So this is, I think, I stop at that, because others would like to probably add on and discuss about this further. But that is my view. MIMA, we have a lot of these stakeholders. We can discuss this, but come to this having a dedicated ministry, that really needs another level to decide and to discuss about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sabrina. You have really said as it is. Lack of political will and also interest of many. Again, I'm not saying this in a critical way. I'm just saying that in any research and any major decisions, we have to look at things in a holistic, in totality. In research, we have this approach called PASTEL. Kan? You have to look at the political, economic, social, technology, environment, legal, now even societal expectations. So if none of this is met, if it makes sense economically, it doesn't make sense politically, then it's no go, and vice versa. So everything has got to be satisfied. So if that is the way it is, if that is how we should accept it, then we have to move on. So that's what I'm saying is we need not revisit this thing again until the need for it emerges, or until the political, economic, all the pastel landscape changes in favor of the establishment of a single ministry to manage maritime affairs. Kalau tak, then if we all accept the fact that this is how it is done, or there is a certain tolerable level of inefficiency that comes with the current arrangement, so be it lah. Kan? We don't live in a perfect world. Screws fall off, and the fact that we are still doing okay with the current arrangement maybe is a hint that we should just continue rolling our sleeves and continue working as hard as we can within the context of the current arrangement. And in the same light, again, when I was in MIMA dulu, there was some talks about creating Vijay. I know you're berpeluh dah. I know you can expect these tough questions coming from me. There was some thoughts about creating a single national port authority. So semua orang berpeluh masa tu kan, because oh my god, I'm going to lose a job. Maybe people will be made redundant. So do you think hand in heart, Vijay, that this is an idea whose time has come, or we are fine the way we are sekarang?
Okay, thank you, Nazri, for the question. And can I put some disclaimer? This is my personal view. Okay, right. Look at the federal ports. We have got Penang, we have got Port Klang, and at Port Klang we have got Westport, Northport, we have got Melaka, we have got Pasir Gudang and PTP, right? And of course on the east we have got Kuantan, Kemaman, Bintulu. Look at the operators. So, Penang, which is under Suruhanjaya Pelabuhan Pulau Pinang, is under MMC. At Port Klang, we have got Northport is under MMC. Melaka is under KMBC Port, is also part of MMC. And we have got PTP, MMC, and Pasir Gudang, MMC. And we have got 5 federal ports controlling over MMC and Westports. Most likely, the best way is to merge the ports to be a federal port, because we are just managing 2 port operators, right? And the decision-making process, if you look at the Act, Port Authorities Act 1963, it is supposed to be under the supervision of the port authority, respective port authority, and also the Suruhanjaya. Tapi the way that we have been handling, that Dasar Penswastaan came in and all the other government agencies came in, for us to make a decision that actually has cost a lot of tears, and the bureaucracy came into play. So I would really propose for the government to look into the Federal Port Authority, at the same time maintain all the logistics councils and forums that they have. That is kind of dialogue. In order to regulate the industry, you need a body with a statutory act or legislative powers. Thank you, Nazri.
In the same vein, maybe there is room for a few ministries in the way that there is room for a few associations. Look at the shipping sector, for example. Of course, we have MASA, but there is also a formation of a so-called splinter group. But don't take this in a negative way. Ini bukan macam Fatah dengan Al-Aqsa Brigade separating from PLO because they feel that PLO is not taking care of their interests. Maybe that's not a good analogy. I mean, the fact that OSV Malaysia has been established to take care of the interests of OSV owners, Datuk Haq, please share your thoughts on this, shows that it is probably sensible to have more than one association, or even to extrapolate this situation to the ministries. Maybe it makes sense to just have more than one association because it may be a little bit too much on the plate of a particular agency to handle everything related to the maritime sector. Dia kena jaga port, dia nak kena jaga shipping, seafarers, the environment, the law side of it, the strategic issues, maritime issues, it may be too overwhelming. So maybe, again, I'm not trying to influence, just thinking out loud, that the current arrangement, makes sense. So what do you think about that from point of view? Let's hear from Datuk Haq dulu, and then I will go down the floor to others as well, especially also from the academia perspective.
Thank you, Encik Nazri. I think regarding the association, the splinter group or whatever you mentioned, I think we are not the splinter group. I think as far as MASA is concerned, we take care about 85% of the Malaysian tonnage, which is quite high. We have about 300 over members and about 100 over shipping companies. So MOSWA is not a splinter group. It's another association that take care of the offshore sector. Likewise, the Sabah Ship and Sarawak Ship Owner Association. But both these groups, MOSWA and the SSA or Sabah Sarawak, they are members of MASA. I think MASA have a role in ensuring that our members are being protected and our objectives are being met. So I think the government also doesn't want to talk to too many associations. So MASA is well represented in the government, and as our government is our partner, we basically involved. We have represented in many of the authorities, agencies in the government, like we are in the pilot board, we are in the domestic shipping license board, we are in the Lembaga Diusapi, we are in the Kumpulan Wang Pusat Perdagangan Laut, we are in the PNI Malaysia, and all the various pilot board in the country. And also we are working with the government on the in the up to the level of the IMO, MEPC, and also in London. And also we are working with the government on this ASEAN Maritime Technical Working Group, and also, of course, we are also the member of FASA, the Federation of ASEAN Ship Owner Association. We are also the member of the International Chamber of Shipping, which International Chamber of Shipping is also represented at the IMO level. So we have quite a well-defined role. So basically, for the MOSWA, the president of MOSWA is also our ESCO member who look after the offshore industry. So basically, I'm not saying they are splinter group, but I think they are part and parcel of our industry lah, and then they are focusing more on their the problem, but which problem came back to Masa, and we look at it on the national level. Likewise in Sabah and Sarawak, Sarawak have their problem, and the shipping association in Sabah and Sarawak come to Masa, and we will try to get it settled at the national level. One of the issue is currently is regarding the high tariff of container boxes from Sabah, from West Malaysia to Sarawak and Sabah, which is initially when we opened the cabotage, this foreign ship came in to take the cargo from Malaysian Malaysian Peninsular Port, go to Kuching and Kuching Port on their way to China. But now, because of the freight of the container is so high, so good for this big player, they refuse to take the cargo from Peninsula go to Sabah, go to Sarawak. So if we don't have our national fleet, the price will go up, because at the moment they can command about $6,000 per box to go to Europe, compared to 100 or 1,500 ringgit to go to Sarawak. So we are lucky to have our national fleet. That's why cabotage is very important. If we don't have our national fleet, this big player will just either you take it or you leave it at $6,000 to carry 3 times or 3/4 of the price they've been paid by our local to our local fleet. So this is things that I think is very important. We touched on a little bit on cabotage just now. Sorry, I have to divert to cabotage because cabotage was mentioned, and I take this opportunity to mention about cabotage, which needs to be reinstated to safeguard our national fleet, to safeguard our national interest, to safeguard our security of the nation.
Well, it's a fair subject to bring up, Datuk. So much so that the cabotage discussion has been one of the most intensely debated issues in the country, and studies upon studies have been made, statements upon statements made by all sides. So hopefully, one solution will be taken eventually that can safeguard the interests of the majority rather than just protective of only a particular side. So much so that this cabotage policy has been branded as sabotage policy by some quarters who are against it. Anyway, we leave that aside. Again, I want to make a full round to really ask each of the panelists about the viability or even the need of establishing a single maritime body to act as that chef, as I mentioned earlier, to come up with this Michelin star recipe in this great kitchen in the maritime ecosystem that we have. Sue, do you mind sharing your thoughts on this from shipbuilders and marine industry players' point of view?
Yes, thank you. I think it's time now we have a single or a focus ministry or a focus agency look into the maritime issue in Malaysia. As we want to promote Malaysia as a maritime nation back in 80s until now. So there is still a lot, like Datuk Ishak said earlier, we have more than 10 ministry and 31 agency who are directly linked to maritime issue. I think this makes things complicated, and we can see a lot of overlapping here. I think, for example, one of our task force in yachting and leisure, the yachting industry is facing a lot of problems, especially according to the various port and various location. For example, in Langkawi, the interpretation lain. If they go to Sabah, lain. So they create a lot of havoc and things. This will drive, the potential investment or the holiday seeker to come into Malaysia, and they will go direct from Phuket to Singapore. whereas by migration. And also in the yard, when we import things, equipments and things, we also facing a lot of problem. We have to go through a lot of ministry to get clearance and things like that. So I think it's good if we have a single focus point to look into all this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Su. Let's hear from Datuk Sabirin about what you think about this idea or this suggestion to set up a single maritime body, Datuk. Datuk, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Try to meddle with this PC. Well, I've spoken about this. No, I think I can see probably something. I relate to the issue of APM, how it came into being, and now probably after 16 years now we can see some improvement. At least when, in fact, now we are going into national single maritime NAMSPOC. But this maritime is so vast, and the interest is as vast as well. So we need to really careful because they will hit a lot of. We know that ministries don't like to lose power or influence over certain things, And maritime, in fact, is related to so many ministries. So how to do this? So I think probably if you're going to have a single maritime ministry, probably we can do other way, as what was said earlier, that we have to have a single, let's say, commission who will overlook into this. But the powers and the other things attached to it, this thing we must treat it very, very carefully because a lot of sensitivities happening. Ministries and politicians don't like to lose power, and but if we put the interest of the nation at the forefront and convince them and show the data that the better things to do is probably to amalgamate certain powers into one dedicated, probably Suranjaya or whatever, then probably they will be, having a second thought about this. Yeah, that this is the best for the country. But without that help from big data about this and the future where we're going to, and then we are actually repeating, like what happened to FMM early on. Instead of having one single agency, it became the 14th agency, which I think not very true now. But this is something is a big challenge for us. It involves a lot of sensitivities. It needs a real political will, and then when we talk political will, it will come probably at the topmost politician of the country. This is something that So the way we work in the country, we see certain parties representing their race are given certain portfolios. This is actually the crux of it. The sensitivity. If we take it out, then they say we are negating certain race, or they say take it very bluntly. So I think this is something that we need to think: what is best after ministry? If not ministry, then what is it? Is it a state or a federal institution or whatever? Involve Sabah Sarawak as well. Another big thing for us to really sort of for something, because through the national agreement and CTV, a lot of things that we need to discuss, and the will discuss untuk benar. This thing that we need to really set up all the stakeholders, stick together and see what best for us to move forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sabirin. You hit the nail on the head again. The only race that matters in maritime is the race to deliver cargo on time, safely, securely, at cost, and at the most, cost-efficient manner possible. So that's the only race that counts, right? Let me just pass the floor to Dr. and share from academia perspective. And as the tension builds, I want to reserve the last crescendo to Captain Halim as SVP Maritime for his final thoughts on this very important topic of whether or not a single agency is needed for the maritime sector in Malaysia. So Dr. Aini, it take about 3 or 4 minutes and then I will pass the floor to Captain Halim. Captain Halim, sila duduk, jangan lari.
Thank you, moderator. I'd like to concur on what has been said by Datuk Sabirin. He said quite a number of times with regards to the political will. Yeah, looking at the political agenda nowadays, you can see with academic perspective of view, our concern will largely be evolve around where would our graduates be going to, yeah, in terms of employability, employment. They need jobs, right? In terms of talking about job creation and the livelihood for the future of generation, especially our belia lah, yeah, our young people, of which is comprised lot of number of people that of different skill sets, yeah, different kind of training background. So with this, I would like to touch upon the current initiative by the government looking into the concern of the employability as part of our KPI really from the Ministry of Higher Education. So it goes along with the government initiative on the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. Okay, so this is an initial phase of which for the National Economic Recovery Plan. When we talk about an entity to be established, you need to have a stewardship, you need to have a champion. And sometimes you talk about you need to have a minister. But if there is no minister, there could be a unit, a special unit that actually looking into this. So how about in terms of maritime sector? How do we deal with this? So on first thought, I would like to explore apa yang Datuk Sabirin has mentioned. Instead of a ministry, how about a commission? Yeah, how about a special commission under the Prime Minister's office, for example, to take the lead on the vision of 2030? What does it mean by equity? Yeah, equitable distribution of wealth, of opportunity. So with that reason, under this program with the Ministry of Finance, Penjana, we have all this recovery plan, especially with COVID and all. You need to provide unemployed graduates for their upskilling, reskilling for particular program. So for me, I think it's really a great opportunity to look at this maritime sector and how we work with you in the industry. How can we work with you as an NGO to come up with programs and the sector that perhaps Datuk KSU has mentioned just now? Where are the gaps? Where are the challenges? Where are the, what do you call it, the barriers for our skill set of people which is not enough? So I think we need to take this opportunity whereby the targeted group of students or graduates should be benefiting this, about 50,000 of people. So could we have like a 10% of this to the maritime sector? Again, for the government initiative, depending on the government, depending on the political master, but we need to have people like you, especially in the panel here, yeah, to have these voices heard. For that reason, the strategic areas that have been, the government has been talking about looking into the long-term growth, especially in this maritime sector. How would we achieve this equitable distribution for the income for various classes, ethnic groups, regions, supply chains? So how we can achieve in terms of the business of and the industry ecosystem, the key economic growth, the human capital, the labor market and compensation of employees, social well-being, regional inclusion and social capital. Because without these justifications, who going to listen to us? who will going to listen to us unless we mentioned just now, we must have the data, we must have the studies done, we must have this proposal with substantive scientific evidence as well as economic figures in terms of convincing the government that, hey, look, this is something we need to do differently this time because of the challenges post-COVID, especially the challenges of IR 4.0, the challenges of about AI coming into all the corporate sectors and SMEs and SMIs. So where is the role or the segment of economy for the maritime industry? For this reason, I urge everyone, we are here as a university and also with other universities in Malaysia and also our partners in the region. We have collaborations with Indonesia, Taiwan, China, Korea, Japan. So with that strategic alliances into the academic sector, we can really move forward in terms of how can we address the issue, the very thing about maritime governance in the country. Again, if we have those facts and justifications of the future generations need to have employment opportunities in new growth sectors. So again, if maritime sector is going to be an opportunity for the future, I just hope that we can actually have future deliberation to iron out what exactly we want for our future generation. Okay, thank you very much.
Datuk. Thank you very much, Datuk. That sort of like sums up perfectly what needs to be done lah. If at all we need to move forward to set up a single ministry, then that's what it takes. So we need to lay out the map. We need to have a bit of a give and take. Tadi Datuk Seri mentioned about siapa pun tak suka lose power, and that was already confirmed by a few others as well. Siapa pun tak suka that their territory is being nibbled into, but in the interest of the majority, we need to set aside our own personal interests for it. So before I get to Captain Alim to wrap up this discussion on single ministry formation, I want to take two questions from the floor. One is on the by Stephen Chan. In view of recent scrapping of the deep sea port project in Malacca as a part of the Malacca Gateway project, what is the economical reputational impact? This was in the news, and there was I remember there was a major launching of it. I'm not sure who the parties behind it, but as I recall, there were some Chinese parties in it. And was Port Klang Authority involved in it, Vijay? I'm not sure whether it was, but can you shed some light on this, bro?
Right. Thank you, Nazri. With regards to the Malacca Deep Sea Port, the development by KAJ Development Sdn Bhd, I think the Malacca State Government has dropped the project, as Port Klang Authority is also the Lembaga Pelabuhan Malacca or Malacca Port Authority, right? So as of now, the news will be as what was published in the paper, that the Malacca State Government has said a no-go for that particular project.
Okay. All right, don't worry about reputational damage. Bigger projects have been cancelled. I damage my reputation all the time by appearing in TikTok videos with my kids. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, there's also a question on what is the panel's opinion of Thailand's plan to develop a land bridge? Was this addressed tadi? I'm not sure. Tapi kalau belum, can we get some opinion on land bridge, Thailand land bridge combining rail and highways? Ini cerita lama ni. Connecting Ranong to Andaman Sea to Champuan at South China Sea will reduce cargo movement by 2 days. Will it have an impact on Malaysian ports, especially shipping in Straits of Malacca? Can anyone take this? Datuk Haq, could you share the perspective of ship owners on this? Or maybe Vijay also later on the port perspective.
I think regarding the land link, they call it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're talking about the channel or the rail.
I think this is land bridge. Ini bukan Kera Canal. Kera Canal the questioner would have mentioned Kera Canal, I'm sure. I think it's the land bridge. Good.
The land rail, is it?
Yeah.
I think as for the shipping in Malaysia, I think I don't see any much effect on the country shipping lah. I mean, from what I see, because most of these shipping company that will use is all these big big shipping line that go direct from Middle East to Japan, China. If it happen, I mean, if you're talking about container movement, but as long as for the tanker, I think I'm not sure whether it will have any effect on the tanker business. But I think on the advantage side for Malaysia, maybe we can develop a port somewhere near that land bridge, in Kedah, or I'm not sure what, in Langkawi, or I'm not quite sure. But I think that there is also a potential. We look at it, although there is some backlash, but also we look at it on the positive side. We can develop a port there to complement what the Thais will be doing. That is my opinion, personal opinion.
Thanks. Okay, thank you very much, Datuk. I think we have addressed most of all the questions. Okay, now I want to go back to Vijay. You have something to say about this Maritime Ministry before I pass the floor to Captain Alim.
Right.
Captain Alim, I torture you bagi tension bill because you kena jawab this question.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nazri. Okay, as other panelists also have said, that maritime industry is a big industry, or huge or vast industry. It has got major scope, and it ranges in quite a number of angles. Now, but look at our Ministry of Transport, the Maritime Division. It is a very small division that is looking after it. I would really propose, rather than coming up with a new commission, new council, or new ministry, why don't we enhance or empower or enforce the ministry's maritime division to cover the scope of the work that we require to do in the future? Right? Like maritime division, I think it is quite very small. We need a bigger maritime division to cover the entire scope. This is my humble opinion, Professor Nazri.
You're too humble, my friend. That opinion is solid. Okay, let's pass the floor to Captain Halim and see what MOT has to say about this. And fasten your seatbelt, brace yourself. Captain Halim, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Natri. Thank you, Vijay, for that proposal. In actual fact, the proposal came way back in 2016 from a study made by World Bank and also Bank Negara. So one of the proposal was to strengthen the maritime division in MOT. From currently we only have 30 so together with all my staff, it's only 32 of us. And compared to what been proposed by Bank Negara and World Bank, 240 people. This is to take care of the most of it is on the economic activity, or regulation, all sort of things. So can you imagine, I supposed to have 240 people, but now I'm running with only 32. Okay, with regards to the proposal of having one particular agency, like I mentioned earlier in my paper, in my presentation, there's nothing one model fits into one particular administration or country. As you have mentioned, moderator Nazri, that MILT have make a U-turn. This is similar to our main agency. From one system, they call it U. Now they make a U-turn and make the whole entire ports operation under supposed to be a single window, have make a big U-turn already. So this is a very big effect to our economic activity, especially in ports, because we're supposed to have one single window system, but now everything have become U. The thing is that there's nothing fits in one model. As you can see, as I have mentioned, we have inherited one particular system where this is something that we have to what I call to explore and how this thing can be made better. It works well for now, and the economic activity and enforcement activity is two different set. If you put into one particular agency or ministry, inside the ministry will start conflicting each other. So this is very difficult. So that's why in the beginning I said there's now no model will fit into one particular country. I agree with Vijay. So maybe my division will look into employment, economic. There's so many things we are facing it. We have a shortage of shipping now because of the shortage of containers, effect to the freight rate. And when it comes to freight rate effective, then the price for the consumer is also high, and it goes back to our wallet. So to answer that question, there's no yes or no. And Dr. Sabirin also have mentioned the difficulties that the currently faced by one particular agency. They just talk about enforcement only. Until today, still it's not there. Cannot be done one particular agency because the expertise are different. For instance, if you are from the fisheries, the type of fisheries, type of fish, you know, you need to know. And APMM, they cannot learn and improve everything. Okay, somebody is trying to say something. Yeah. So with that, maybe Malaysia is more diverse. We also have to take care of our friends from the eastern side. I saw Renko is there. So listening to all the panels that speaking up, and we need to address that issue as well because it's quite unique on the other side. Because here we have all the mainline shipping, but they do not have that. So how we going to balance this thing out? So if we like cabotage policy is good for shipping, but is it good for something else? So this is something a balancing act need to be explored further.
Okay, that again is the perspective of Captain Halim. I'm not sure whether it represents the official MOT punya perspective, but nonetheless, he has spoken about it, and I'm not sure whether I can safely conclude that we are still at a stalemate. It's still not conclusive or whether there's a need for this. Tapi I am never take an immovable position on anything because we live in a dynamic world. We live in a very in a fast-paced, ever-changing landscape. Who would have thought we will be in the situation we are today? A year ago, all the new normals that we're practicing today are almost unthinkable. Dulu, those who have been to Japan and Korea selalu gelakkan orang Japan, Korea pakai mask all the time, so paranoid. And now it seems that now the joke is. A few years ago, when you walk into a bank with a mask, everyone will be alerted. Now, if you walk into a bank without a mask, you will alert everyone. Dah terbalik dah pula. So that along the line of the discussion that we've had, which I'm very happy to preside over, it's been very robust. We have touched on many subjects. It's almost next to impossible to conclude the discussion, and we are still. at the current situation, not sure whether there is a need for the formation of maritime industry, but we know for a fact now to attain togetherness in maritime competitiveness moving forward, we need to look at many aspects. And we need to break the walls. We need to have a whole of government approach. We need to have synergy. We need to have intergovernmental, interdepartmental, interministerial collaboration and cooperation among many players along the in the maritime ecosystem. We need solid data. We need to make do without archaic policies. We need to keep the channels of communication open within the academia, the policymakers, and the industry. We need to develop and nurture human capital, talent development, especially in the context of Industry 4.0. We also need to look at the hardware and software part of it. We're happy to see that we already have the hardware is pretty much there. The instruments for this orchestra to perform brilliantly is already there. Tak ada satu pun yang missing. Again, analogy of a kitchen which is well equipped. Ingredients semua dah ada, equipment dah ada. Cuma that recipe yang kita nak cari. So I hope I've done justice to this task of moderating this session of brilliant panelists. And saya berundur diri dan minta maaf kalau terkasar bahasa silap kata. Now I would like to pass the floor back to Datuk VC to wrap up the discussion. And Nazri Khalid, Professor Ejang UMT signing off. Thank you very much.
Professor Nazri Khalid, we are very proud of you being part of us. Yeah, UMT, likewise as the discussion. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for our wrap up. I would like to thank everyone from the panel, especially very useful and very, I think we can look at a more pragmatic approach in terms of the points given to us, especially in terms of what is our choice as the way forward. Yeah. I would like to say that this is not the end of our meeting with you, either virtual or probably later on when COVID, war has been put a stop. Yeah, we just hope that we could have either on hybrid or even on face-to-face meetings. We can continue to engage you all, in this session. Particularly with hopefully we are planning for a roundtable forum as well as the Maritime conference. Yeah. So our institution, we have the Center of Excellence for Maritime, ICO Maritime and PG, Pusat Jaringan Industri. But we also have the institutes, we have the faculty. Again, I would like to tease Captain Halim. You need to enhance your maritime department. Yeah, I can lend some of our experts there. Yeah, so we can work on the support. Yeah, and the synergies. Just hope that you all take good care of yourself, and just hope that what our thinking here, our discussion here, will put into justifications of to prepare perhaps a white paper of some sort. So we continue the discussion, especially with the government. I would thank KSU, Datuk Isham as well, and particularly to all audience. My colleague Prof. Fazia for facilitating this, and to the distinguished panel speakers. Let's meet again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Together we do it.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the conference, next conference in October 2021.
Mr. Nazri Khalid for interesting topics on our today's forum, Togetherness in Moving Forward for Maritime Global Competitiveness. We are extremely happy to have all of you for the event. We are at the end of the event, but we want to have a photo session first before we end this. Kindly turn on your video and be ready with big smile. Okay, perhaps we can have a thumbs up. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. 1, 2, 3. Okay, perhaps we can try again. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we are done with the photo session. Big applause to our host, Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, especially to Center for Knowledge Transfer and Industrial Linkages, Fakulti of Maritime Studies, Fakulti of Ocean Engineering, Technology and Informatics, and all committee involved with the programs. And last but not least, thank you to all participants, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. Hopefully, this forum will further strengthen the smart strategic partnership between UMT and Maritime industry players, and hope to see you soon. And again, for now, that's all for today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and have a good day. Bye.